pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll with planet. Flight downside of speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Okay. We don't need any more of these.
All right, folks, you know the drill. Let us know if you can see an active tank farm out there with Starship SN. How many starships is this? 15. And let us know if you can hear us. John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight here. Give me a 5x5 if you can see the video and you can hear my voice in chat as we stand by for proof testing, which we think has already partially occurred today. Starship SN15 proof testing a couple different things in that workflow, and we are hoping to catch the cryo proof test here. That's why the tank farm's online, we think. But again, as usual, the NASA spaceflight crew has been standing by watching SN15 all day, and then when that tank farm spooled up, indicating that there was something that we wanted to see, we started up the live stream here. So over here in the studio, again, John Galloway with NASA Spaceflight. If you know me on Twitch, you may know me as DOS. But I will be here doing some live commentary, joined by my friends with other NASA spaceflight folks here. I believe back in the studio we've got Jack Beyer as well. Jack, we got you on?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? Ready for some testing with SN15, and hopefully it'll get nice and frosty. We'll be able to see it cryo-proof.
All right, folks, Jack is one of the video editor, photographer, live stream host, robot deployer, wrangler, whatever you want to say across the board. Jack does all sorts of different stuff for NASA Spaceflight, and that is his voice that you will be hearing there. Jack, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem. I think I'm going to start writing a book called Zen and the Art of Robot Maintenance, or Robot Herding, something like that. We'll workshop it. We'll workshop it.
There's got to be like an electric sheep reference in there somewhere, like do
Absolutely.
robots dream of electric sheep? Or
That makes me want to just like put a sheep in front of, or next to one of the cameras, just like, here you go, buddy. Night night.
It'd have to be electric though. I don't know what that means, but maybe neon sheep.
Yeah, I'm down. That would be cool.
Hey, also in the studio, kicking off the stream here, we have Michael Baylor. I think Michael, were you going to talk?
Yes, I am. How's it going?
There's that answer. Michael Baylor is another one of the critical people behind the scenes who keeps all the lights blinking in the proper order. Michael, thank you for joining us this afternoon, evening, or good night.
And you can actually see, if you look really closely now, some vapors coming from the aft section of Starship SN15, which is good news because we obviously see the tank farm going crazy, but the vapors underneath the vehicle is a definitive sign that a cryogenic proof test is underway. We want to make sure we do not go live for an ambient proof test, which is what they do first. An ambient proof test is just when they pressurize the vehicle with gaseous nitrogen. And other than a brief vent or two, there's not really much to see over that several-hour test. So we only try to go live when there is something interesting to see. And the cryogenic proof test is far more interesting as you get a lot of venting from the tank farm. You'll see the vehicle get quite frosty, hopefully, and we should see a good amount of venting. And perhaps, if we're lucky, we might see some RCS tests. But the cryogenic proof test is definitely the most exciting of the proof test campaign.
What's the difference? I mean, between the ambient proof test and the cryo proof test?
So the cryogenic proof tests use the liquid nitrogen as opposed to the ambient tests that use the gaseous nitrogen. So because they're using cryogenically chilled propellants, or cryogenic propellants, or not propellant, but cryogenic consumable, or liquid I should say, because obviously nitrogen is inert, it is not a propellant, which is why they use nitrogen for this test. Because if something goes wrong, nitrogen is inert, it will not cause a big fire. So as we saw with SN1, SN3, and SN Mark I, SN1, and SN3 were the 3 Starship prototypes that failed the proof test. And when they failed, it was just a big, plume of gas being released and a bulkhead or two going flying. There was no big fireball like we saw with SN4 that had an anomaly during a static fire with actual propellants on board. So the lack of propellant means that if something goes wrong today, there will not be a big fireball.
Yeah, what do you think the probability that Elon had proof testing on the mind when he tweeted the other day that blimps are cool or whatever it was? Like, this is essentially a big blimp or giant steel pressure vessel that they are filling full of well, not helium or hydrogen, but something, and they're seeing if it's going to pop. I don't know. I just wonder if he had proof testing on the brain. It was a sort of an odd tweet.
It almost
But
seemed like a cell phone pic, so I'm just wondering if he like saw a blimp somewhere and just thought about it. I don't know.
yeah, that's what it looked like. And more on topic, the fun fact that end of the intro video is SN3. That's an SN3. That's the SN3 pop during cryo testing. So if you are relatively new to the channel or you haven't been watching since the early days of the tanks and whatnot, early days of tank watching, I guess. That's what that one is. That's SN3.
So hopefully we did not, jinx SN15 by starting off the cryogenic proof stream with an SN3 reminder, but in any event, if you look really closely on the left-hand side of the
Yeah,
screen,
look at that.
just below Starship SN15,
Yep.
not only can you see the vapors, but you can also see another thing. And the metal surrounding is obviously the stand, but in the center, those metal beams going up to SN15's aft section are the thrust simulator. And that thrust simulator will simulate the forces of a Raptor engine when the vehicle is under pressure during today's test. So that will help verify that the vehicle is structurally ready for a test flight. This vehicle is the first vehicle to undergo a cryogenic proof test with a thrust simulator since SN6, I believe, or SN8, I think. Jack, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't. I should remember this, but I don't. But I'm pretty sure 8 was the
Yeah, I think
most
it's 8,
recent one.
because 8 was the one with the 3 Raptors for the first time. So the reason they're doing the thrust simulator testing again is because SN15 has an upgraded thrust puck, which is the thrust section of the vehicle that has the Raptors mounted on it. So they're making sure that this upgraded design can withstand the forces of the Raptor engines under pressure. So
Yeah,
that's another way they're going to be testing today without using actual propellant. So again, if something goes wrong, there won't be a fireball because they're not using actual Raptor engines, they're using a simulator.
wow, that tank farm is really going crazy, and you can see down by that thrust simulator all of that vapor coming from that thrust section, the aft section of Starship, underneath the skirt there. So the vehicle is definitely being filled up with cryogenic liquid nitrogen.
And that's what we want to see for a cryo test, isn't it?
Yeah, sure enough. And I wonder, Elon tweeted that there's hundreds of changes or whatever on this vehicle. So I wonder what else there is beyond the new designed thrust puck or engine mount or aft dome, whatever you want to call it. I'm sure, maybe even just like how they did the welding on that is different or how it's welded to the structure itself, or hundreds of changes is a lot. So I'm super curious. I would love some more detail and color on exactly what is different here that we're looking at on SN15 versus previous vehicles, but we know that there's a lot different, and so they want to test it with this thrust ram, just like they have previous test articles whenever there's been major changes. Or I mean, and like you said, hopefully we didn't jinx SN15 by bringing up SN3 and whatnot at the very beginning, but that's why this test is exciting. Like you said, Michael, this is the most exciting of these tests, and the reason it is because I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think any of us thinks it's going to happen, but there is the possibility on the spectrum of possibilities that SN15 could pop, and then it would be back to the drawing board a little bit. But that definitely doesn't seem like it'll be the case. They already had a working solution with previous starships that flew, multiple starships. So it should be whatever changes they did obviously should be an improvement and not a regression. But you never know, and that's sort of what we're waiting and watching to find out today.
Hey, again, if you're just joining us, we have gone live here with the cameras from Boca Chica because we saw activity at the tank farm. Supposed to be doing a proof test today, and that's where they actually pump something into the Starship to make sure that it's good to go. It's going to be holding pressure all the ways. And look, we've actually got a little vent happening about 2/3 of the way up Starship there for a second. But this is a proof test, and we've gone live because the activity at the tank farm and the vapors coming out from the bottom of Starship indicate that this looks like a cryo proof test, where we'll start to get frost forming on the side of the vehicle. A couple of very exciting things have happened during cryo proof tests, so we usually don't miss these if we can see the rocket. fog notwithstanding. But that is what we are here doing today. We already see those vapors from the bottom of the vehicle. We know that that means they're putting cryogenic liquids, in this case probably liquid nitrogen, into the vehicle, a nice inert gas and or liquid there to make sure that SN15 can hold up to those super cold temperatures throughout all of the fuel tanks. So we'll be watching for some frost to start to form on the sides of SN15. Now, exactly when that's going to happen, we don't always know. But that is what we are hanging out doing here with the NASA spaceflight team. Also, we've got some super chats that have been coming in and some questions in the queue. Jack, do you want to grab some of those super chats for us real quick?
Absolutely. Let's see. Here we go. Let me get my windows arranged as like I like them, and I will talk while I do that. Look at that. Great segue, Jack. Jedediah Markley, thank you so much for the membership. Let's see, what member level did you come in at? Don't you love it when I talk through what I'm doing while I do it?
Yeah, right.
Hang on. Oh, don't want to do that. Let's see. Okay.
Thank you for the membership.
Yeah, thank you for the membership. How about that? Whatever level you came in at, you get various perks. So we hope you enjoy the perks that you get, and thank you for, we couldn't do this without our members. So thank you to everybody. It really helps us do what we do. Joseph, thank you for the $10. They say 5x5. Here's a cryo and a pot of coffee for the team. Thank you, Joseph. $10. Good chunk of money. Charles Shutrick, thank you for the $2. They say, when is the flip and burn opening? Rest. I'm guessing that it's supposed to be rest for 3, please. Oh man, we do need to update that intro. It's one of those things on my ever expanding to-do list. But it'll get done. I think maybe when the first one lands, we'll use the flip and burn, or I think that would be the next major milestone where we really need to update the intro with some cool new footage. But until then, maybe that'll be our thing to look forward to. Not the landing or anything. It'll be an intro. Anyways, how do I say this? Leg, thank you for the 20 currency units. They say just had to be first, but you weren't. But you still are thanked. Thank you. Ebob, thank you for the €2. They're claiming to be the only one of themselves. We're gonna get existential fast, so we'll just move on. Thank you for the support there, bud. Rough Riders, another one of those names that pops up all the time. Thank you for the $4.99. Say, what's the plan for Crew 2 coverage? More DOS robots? Michael, DOS, you guys want to talk about Crew 2, or you want to leave that up to the viewer's imagination and they'll just have to wait and see on the day?
In work.
There you go. In work.
In work.
And when DOS says he's working on something, you know it's getting worked on. Michael, thank you for the €10. They say 5x5. Just came home from a jam session. Bit tipsy, really hyped to see you guys live today. When Frost. Shout out to the robots, most importantly to Mary. Down there bringing us daily content. For real. Mary has already spotted a couple really cool things for today. So the daily video, which is coming out later on, it shouldn't actually be too long, should have some really awesome stuff in it. And of course, we'll also have a cryo-proof recap video. But I don't want to spoil anything. But again, if you aren't watching our daily videos, maybe like and subscribe. And if you don't subscribe to the channel already, those daily update videos of everything going on in Boca Chica that Mary does are absolutely astounding. And of course, she's a legend. That's why we always say, thanks, Mary. I mean, unreal dedication on her part. Matt Miller, thank you for the $5. Thomas Anfang, thank you for the $2. And the note about Yuri's Day and the shuttle anniversary. Yeah, today's, the 40th anniversary of the first flight of a Space Shuttle Columbia, and it's the 60th anniversary or something like that of Yuri Gagarin's first, human flight into space. Am I accurate with those dates?
You got that.
Yay,
Yeah.
I'm not a dirty liar. Let's see. Astro Guy, thank you for the $5. Say, hey guys, keep the Starship train. Just keeps on rolling. Was great meeting Jack at SN11's first attempt. Thanks so much for the awesome coverage. Oh, what's up, Astro Guy? Thank you for the support. Musical Wolves, thanks for the $5. They say, will SN11's cleanup need to be finished before the license for SN15? Good question. I am not the FAA, so I'm not quite sure how that'll all play out, and I'm super wondering how that cleanup is going. It's a lot of pieces, to say the least. But thank you for the support there, Musical Wolves. No, see, the queue keeps growing. It's a good problem because we need your support. But I'm trying to get through these, and we can get to some other questions. If you have any questions, feel free to @NASA Spaceflight and put the question into chat, and we will see it, and we might read it. And you do not have to super chat. Always like to reiterate that. No C, thank you for the €5. They say great coverage as always. Coffee for Mary and oil for the robot army. Nice, thank you, No C. Also, oil for my Land Rover, please, and thanks. It leaks a lot of oil. It's bad. It needs to get fixed. It needs some maintenance. Anyways, Neptune AI or Neptune Owl, thank you for the new membership, and Leon, thank you for the new membership. Like again, members with the recurring donations every month. I mean, it really helps us to be able to plan stuff out. I mean, the super chats are amazing, but the memberships are like another level of support. And I see also Osprey GT. Thank you for the Capcom membership. Awesome of you. Awesome to all of our members. Let's see. Patrick Galdston. Thank you for the 10.99 or €10.99. Mark Luick, thank you for the $5. They say SN1 in the intro, not SN3. Am I a dirty? Oh my God, did I get that wrong? I thought it was
Who
SN3.
made that video? Did you?
It was.
Who made that?
It was me. I should know this.
Definitely SN1. That's a good point. You're right.
Oh my God, can we just do over? All right, end the stream and restart it. We just
All
gotta do
right,
it.
stream's over. I'm gonna stop the end stream, but we'll just.
Darn it. Well, you know, SN1 was also Mark III before it was changed to SN1. So maybe I get an out. Maybe, can that be my pass there? Musical Wolves asking if the puck shucker, which I believe some people is what they call the thrust ram, will be tested too. I don't know if I don't know if you can say that it's being tested, but yes, they are using the thrust simulator ram to simulate the force of Raptors on the vehicle during this test. Let's see. Armin24, thank you for the oil money. Minimum, thank you for the new membership. Colton Collingwood, thank you for the $5. They say, what are the differences between SN15 and SN8 and 11? We really don't know too much, specifics in terms of what the differences are. I believe there's been a couple Elon tweets about it here and there, but a lot of that stuff is going to be under the hood, so to speak. So we just know that there's a lot of different changes to 15, and these Starship prototypes are just that. They're prototypes. They'll change rapidly as this development program progresses. So don't forget that there used to be a giant carbon fiber, 12-meter Starship? Like, it used to be completely made out of carbon fiber and way bigger diameter, and things change. So we'll just have to wait and see. Maybe we'll get some more color from Elon, or hey, here's an idea. How about another Starship update? I really, 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 really want another Starship update. Elon tweeted last year, I think in November, Starship update in a week or something along those lines. And it's come on, man, please give us another update. I need one. Scratching myself a little bit, come on, you got any updates? Taylor Van Camp, thank you for the $5. Smooth Peanut Butter Gang, get out of here. Crunchy only. Here's to a great test. Hope you all having a great day. You too, buddy. Thank you for the support. Joey Rogers, thanks for the $4.99. They say the grid fin is a little smaller than I was expecting. Oh, right. Mary tweeted about the grid fin.
Oh, yeah.
The super heavy grid fin was spotted today, so that's what you can look out for. One of the things in the daily video. Keep your eyes open for that. Yeah, I don't know if it was bigger or smaller, if it was just a scale thing, or distance, telephoto lens, whatever. I don't know. But if it's smaller than what you were expecting, hopefully it's adequately sized for the job there. Thank you, Joey, for the support. Carlos, thank you for the, 2,500 currency units of some kind. They say, what are these dots on the chassis of Starship? Dots? I'm not quite sure what you're talking about there, buddy.
The attach points for the TPS, I think.
Yeah.
We see a ton of little dots around the side, and those look like the mechanical attachment points that they put the thermal protection system tiles on, I would guess.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Those are little rivets that are basically built into the skin, right?
Yeah, exactly. Little like pegs or something. I don't know exactly how to describe them, but
yeah. And those tiles mount with a Y-shaped bracket that is sort of embedded in the tile, and there's 3 attach points, and so each tile has 3 of those studs on the ring of the wall of the ship that it attaches to. Good stuff. Perrin, thank you for the $2. They say, hi, fan of you guys. What do you think of ISRO? That's the Indian space.
yeah,
right. Yeah, they're awesome. I mean, I like all rockets.
I'm a huge Karib fan. I think Karib is their nominal. It means everything's nominal, everything's okay, and you hear it all the time during the ISRO broadcast. You hear Karib in the background. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but I've seen enough ISRO broadcasts to know that much at least. So.
Yeah, heck yeah. I mean, it's almost it's more satisfying than nominal because it's 2 words. It's like a good. kind of thing. At least that's what I imagine in my head. Anyways, thank you, parents, for the $2 and the support. Wow,
Get
Roderick.
the next one, yeah.
Yeah, Roderick Lippert, thank you so much for the $50. To say thanks for your hard work. Get some donuts and go with the coffee.
Excellent.
Nice.
Roderick,
to
thank
go
you
with the
so much.
coffee.
To go with the coffee. Now, that's a lot of
Yeah.
donuts. $50 is nothing to sneeze at. Thank you so much for the support there. And like we always do, we don't just want to have a stream where we're reading super chats, so you don't have to super chat to get a question in. Make sure you tag us at NASA Spaceflight if you have something to ask. There's no way we can get to every single question because there's 10,000 of you, over 9,000 of you watching right now, and 9,000 people could type in a question, and then we would talk about each one for 5 minutes, and we would be here until June or longer. But if you got a question for us, put it into chat at NASA Spaceflight, tag us, and I believe to help us out with some of those viewer-submitted questions, we've got another NASA Spaceflight member joining us here. Ian, do we have you in the comms net?
Sure, how y'all doing?
All right.
Hey.
How you doing today, Ian?
Doing great. How about you guys? Good to be here.
Yeah, hanging out, watching a cryo proof test. Y'all, Ian is a writer slash live stream commentator slash the voice behind some of those really cool update videos that we've put out. What was that last update? It was like the Starship update, right, Ian?
General overview of what's been going on the past few weeks up down in Boca Chica.
Excellent.
Yeah, good stuff. And like, thank you for doing that. You know, I have done a couple of them, and they're tricky to be on camera and to read a script and write a script, and so thanks for doing those. I'm hoping that we can do more of them going forward.
Yeah,
Yeah, we-
the writing a
We do
script.
have frost forming on the other camera dots.
All right. So really quickly, Ian, I'm gonna let you run with some questions there, but also let's introduce Mary's camera here. So now we have Mary's camera online out there, and you can actually see the beginnings of the frost ring there down about the middle of the fins on the bottom. You can see that little white circle that shows there's actually some South Texas atmosphere, the humidity freezing onto the side of Starship, a clear indication they've got some cryogenic liquid in that tank. That's what we're expecting, and we'll see that frost line grow and grow. But as always, massive thanks to Mary at Boca Chica Gal, the official Starship photographer, the OG out there at Boca Chica, capturing, documenting the events of the Starship test program and sharing them literally with the rest of the world. If you want the hottest, freshest Starship updates, make sure you follow her on Twitter there at Boca Chica Gal. For sure. Mary, thank you so much for rolling out today and giving us yet another view of what's going on. So, Ian, if you can, grab some of those questions out of chat, and let's get some of those, I don't know the right way to call those. The free questions? That sounds dumb, because that seems to imply that there's a paid question queue, and that's not really the thing. Anybody have a better way to refer
I mean, just
Chat
viewer
Community
Yeah.
question.
questions? At
chat
questions.
question, viewer
Chat
question,
questions. Yeah, that sounds
any
good.
of that.
Can you grab, you ready to grab some of those, Ian?
So let's see here. We got the first question here from William asking, what did SpaceX end up doing with Starship Mark II in Florida? So for those who are unaware, because it's been about a year, SpaceX was actually building two Starships, one in Boca Chica, one in Florida. The second one in Florida was called Mark II. So as of right now, Mark II has been mostly scrapped. Only the nose cone is still there. So they never even ended up finishing Mark II because the design was so old and outdated. They decided to just scrap it and pause Florida operations. So Mark II is kind of still there, but it's mostly scrapped. So sad situation. I've seen it myself. Mark II is pretty cool. Has a spot in my heart, but Mark II is no longer with us, really.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back now and edit some of my Mark II photos because I took a couple. I forget what launch I was there for. It might have been, maybe it was IFA. I don't know, but yeah, that whole era seems like ancient history at this point, where they had two competing teams, both building starships in different places, and they had to like share info and all of that. But you know, Mark II, even though it didn't fly or even get to really be tested, it surely provided them with data that they needed to progress onto Mark III / SN1 / everything after it.
Absolutely. And Elon even said that the reason they were building one in Florida was to have two slightly different designs competing to learn benefits from both different designs. So I'm sure they learned a lot from Mark II that helped the design of SN1 and onwards. Next question here. They're asking, is SN15 using 3mm stainless steel? SN15 is not. It's using 4mm stainless steel. Now, what the difference is between that, 3mm is obviously thinner, and by using 3mm stainless steel, they would be able to save weight approximately 10 to 20 tons actually across the entire Starship. They have not implemented 3mm stainless steel into prototype Starships yet. They have done some smaller testing with SN7.2, but as of right now, it does not look like 3mm stainless will be used anytime in the near future, at least up until SN20. So as of right now, all Starships have used 4mm stainless steel. From Kieran here asking, do you think SpaceX will fly a Starship with people in before Dear Moon? Absolutely, I think they will. I don't think you would want to go from not having people on board a ship to flying straight to the moon. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean,
Das has thoughts.
No, I mean, I don't know that I think they'll have a test flight in a Starship with SpaceX astronauts before they put the commercial Dear Moon passengers in a Starship. I definitely think they'll have some other crewed mission before Dear Moon.
I think that makes sense to me. And at the very least, we also expect them to do several flight tests in an uncrewed configuration before they fly crew. So
yeah,
I think both uncrewed flight tests and SpaceX crewed flight tests are likely.
And you mean like a Starship model that's designed for crew but not actually carrying crew when you say that?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, because they're going to fly. What did Elon say? Like thousands of cargo flights in Starships that are not designed for crew first. I mean, thousands. Who knows how many it'll actually be? But there'll be cargo Starships, and then there'll be crew Starships with different designs in the front cargo area, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Correct.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's a fitting thing to talk about today, given that it's the first flight of the space shuttle anniversary, right? And Bob and John flew the hell out of that thing, and at some point, presumably with Starship, a similar thing will happen, and there will be humans to fly the first Starship into orbit. And wow, that's going to be exciting is one word for it. I think also maybe terrifying, but awesome either way.
Yeah, agreed. Question here from Cyber asking, when will the newer, simpler design of Raptors be used? So I see two different possibilities of that question there. One, there will be, Elon has talked about there being upgrades to Raptor for SN15. We do know that there will be some upgrades that will be a little bit simpler. That's really all that we know. We have seen some new Raptors pulling up into Boca Chica, but there's no real visible difference other than some of them have a green nozzle. And what that is, we don't even know either. So that's
there have been like I forget what serial numbers they started at, but Mary has shot several Raptors that have been delivered that look pretty dramatically different than previous Raptors.
Really, I have not seen that. That's news to me.
Oh man, yeah, they look completely different. Like much less wiring. Like we were talking about this. I forget on maybe it was NSF Live or maybe it was the last stream that we did. We were talking. Yeah, the rollout.
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah.
We were talking about how it's possible that those engines have a bunch less instrumentation on them. As they're further along in the development cycle, and perhaps look at that frost going. And so maybe those engines don't need as many sensors or as much instrumentation because they already know what to expect in various parts of the engine. They don't have to have it so heavily instrumented, and just looks like a more compact design. So yeah, it does seem like I don't know if those are on SN15 or what, but those Raptors have been being delivered for a little while now. So surely they'll start popping up on vehicles soon if they're not already going to be slated to be used on 15 whenever it does get its Raptors.
Very interesting. Well, I just learned something today on the NSF stream. So there's also a second version of a simpler Raptor called the Raptor Boost, and that will be a sort of bare bones, if you want to call it, Raptor. That will be the engines on the outer ring for Super Heavy. Now, there's been no news about those recently, and Super Heavy is still a little way down the road, so we're probably a little while away from seeing any Raptor Boost engines coming out.
Those are going to be nuts, right? I just imagine like an engine with the throttle stuck open or something. Like it's just raw power. I don't know. I'm excited to see our boost in the same way that I'm excited to see Raptor Vac, the vacuum variant, start to be tested more.
Oh yeah, I'm hyped to see Raptor Vac be installed on a Starship, but also Raptor Boost because it's going to be higher thrust and higher efficiency. No throttle, no gimbal. It's just like max power, crank it to 11.
Just light it and go.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like a solid rocket booster of liquid engines. Question from Zach here, asking will they do a cryo test of GSE-1? So what GSE-1 is ground support equipment tank 1. You can see actually on the right there of that view.
Paying
It
attention.
looks like a starship there on the right actually. That is actually the first of seven propellant tanks for the orbital tank farm. So that will be holding either. Do we know what that will be holding? Question.
We've seen labels on it that said both fuel and I forget what other than fuel. Maybe it said oxidizer or LOX or something like that, but not quite clear which of the two propellants it'll be holding. But I think it's safe to say it's a propellant tank.
Well, there we go.
But again,
So
it could also be, I guess, I presume a nitrogen tank, but I think propellant.
gotcha. So to answer the question here, I would assume they wouldn't because they haven't been doing cryo tests on normal vehicles. They're only doing it on SN15 here, likely because of some of the upgrades that it may have, because they haven't done cryo tests in a good while on a lot of starships. So I don't see why they would do a test of GSE-1, but then again, if they did, I wouldn't be too surprised.
And hey, Ian, real quick, we're talking about GSE-1. This angle sort of fools people sometimes. It looks like GSE tank is just right next to Starship, right? If you look at it, you can tell it's a little bit thinner, but it's actually a pretty good distance behind Starship. You can see there the tank farm on the very right, SN15 standing tall. Then we've got Hopper a little ways back. And then way off to the left, that's where the orbital launch platform, the orbital tower is being built, and those big GSE tanks are being installed. You can actually see the crane between us and the tank from this angle, but a little bit of a trick of the camera lens there when it gets compressed together. There is a pretty good distance between the the suborbital test stands, and where this more permanent infrastructure is being built.
Yeah, and I think this.
That crane is ready for the next GSE tank. That's why they positioned that where they did. So we should see the second GSE tank roll out of the mid bay any day now.
Yeah, I believe there have been parts for GSE-3 spotted, right?
Yes, and
So
I think
it seems
beyond that as well.
Gotcha. So it does seem like they're just cranking them out because they do seem to be much simpler than starships because you don't need to have the thrust dome, no common bulkhead. It's just forward dome, 2 stacks, and forward dome. So it's relatively simple, I'll say.
It's interesting that seemingly the bandwidth that they have at the production site that they were putting into starships, they have now kind of shifted to these GSE tanks. And I don't think SN16 has SN16 begun stacking yet.
I don't.
They've begun
think so.
rollout.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they have devoted so much effort to these GSE tanks. You know, they practically paused Starship production, at least seemingly, unless I'm just completely an idiot. But point being, they really want that orbital launch site up and running so that they can get an orbital attempt at some point this year. Hopefully before too long. I'm not going to say summer.
Yeah, sometime soon, hopefully, fingers crossed. But to add on to what you were saying, Jack, I'm actually excited to see when they're done with GSE-7, I would assume, how fast are they going to start cranking out just starships? Because now it seems like they're mostly working on GSE tanks right now. If they can move that bandwidth over to starships as well, it's going to be just cranking them out to pad A, pad B, pad A, pad B. It's going to be nuts to see over the next few months.
Yep, no slowing down in Boca Chica, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And another question here asking, how many Raptors does BN3 need for an orbital launch? So I believe Elon has talked a few months ago, so this information may be a little bit out of date, that a Super Heavy would need about 20 Raptors, I believe. Maybe it was 24. So right now, Super Heavy will have 28 Raptors operationally, but that's likely a little bit of margin in there and a little bit of safety. So he said that they could use 20 Raptors on a minimal payload, minimal basic bare bones orbital flight. And if I had to guess, I would assume they would go for minimal amounts of Raptors. What do you guys think about that? What do you think we'll see for a BN3 orbital flight?
Yeah, I think definitely the minimum amount of Raptors necessary. Because, I mean, they don't have a tower that can catch it yet. So what, does BN3 have legs? Do they just chuck it into the ocean, if it actually pushes something into orbit, will BN3 do a? Well, I guess the question is about an orbital launch. I mean, yeah, I would say the minimum amount necessary would make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a high probability they're not getting those Raptors back. So if you don't need them on there, don't send them.
Yep. And as a quick status update, if you're joining us, we are still waiting for the frost line on the liquid oxygen tank to rise a bit. Currently, the frost line is towards the base of the liquid oxygen tank. There is a bulkhead down there, or a bulkhead where the thrust puck is, where the Raptors are mounted. So that there is actually more liquid nitrogen in that tank right now than it appears, but regardless, we should expect that frost line to start rising a bit as they continue with this test. And then, of course, the CH4 tank, the methane tank on top of the liquid oxygen tank, should also start to get frosty in a bit.
Yeah, and I wonder if our spotting here will be aided by the hot day that it appears to be out there. Maybe we'll get some extra frost or what have you. I always wonder how the weather affects what we see.
Yeah, I'm hoping it cools down a little bit. We get a little bit less turbulence here because we got quite a bit of turbulence in the atmosphere. Just looking across about mile and a half of atmosphere.
Do you have that magic software in the loop, or?
No.
Got it. All right, let's see. Jonas, thank you for the $4.99. They say go team NSF, and go Mary. Have a great day. Well, you have a great day, Jonas. Thank you for the support. Ebob, thank you for the $2. It looks like they are having a fight with themselves. But thank you, or €2. Keysify, common name. Thank you for all the support, Keysify, for the €5 today. They say, how do they fuel Starship when it's on top of Super Heavy? Are they using the same connection for in-orbit refueling? That's a really good question. Will it just be like a giant thermometer that fills up from the bottom? Can they even do that? What are they going to do for orbital refueling connections? How will that work? So many questions. Not really any answers, unfortunately. Does anyone have any thoughts on how they'll fuel it when it's on top of a Super Heavy? Maybe they'll have like an arm off of the tower, just like they do for the second stage of Falcon 9, or what do you guys think?
I think some people have speculated that they might just use the refueling attachment point that Starship will have and pipe the propellant through a pipe on Super Heavy. We'll see. Another possibility is definitely some sort of umbilical connection to where they would refuel the Starships in orbit.
Yeah, basically that's the two options that we're looking at. I mean, for whatever reason, the piping it through Super Heavy option just seems kind of like more futuristic, or like just like a cooler thing to do. In the same way that landing a rocket seems like the right thing to do. You just plug the fuel in one spot, it goes up, it fills up the whole thing, right? Like simpler, better. But good question there, Keysify. And thanks for the support. Go ahead.
I would assume that since Starship is fueled from the bottom, from inside the skirt, which is likely going to be in some way evolved into its refueling port, I would assume that they would fuel Starship through Super Heavy in that way. So they'd have pretty much the same infrastructure as they have on the suborbital launch mount on the top of Super Heavy. So they fuel up Super Heavy. Once Super Heavy's full, they just keep pushing fuel in, and it goes up through Super Heavy into Starship. I think that's the same way they do the liquid oxygen header tank on Starship. So that's my 2 cents. That's what I could see being easiest, quote unquote, simplest from a launch pad perspective.
Yeah, totally. That makes perfect sense to me. Good question, Keysify. And cool support. Thank you. Daniel Weir, thank you for the £15. They say, let's start up the car repair fund here and now. Thank you so much. It's just, it's a good car. It just drives a lot. I think I've driven over 10,000 miles in the last, what was it, SN9 that I was driving out to? I hit 222K, and I just recently hit 232K. So a lot of miles going on the old Land Rover, and it's getting up there in the years. But eventually, someday, I hope to own a Cybertruck, which the next Super Chatter, thank you so much, $4.99. They say, Jack, this is to start a Tesla fund for you. Let me tell you, the idea of driving down a dirt road with no engine noise, just quietly creeping down back roads without making a sound, I mean, one, it's just going to be cool and surreal, and two, I cannot wait for Cybertruck because I imagine be able to sneak up on wildlife and photograph them a little bit easier if your car makes no sound. Thank you, Jason Russell, and thank you to everybody for caring. James Allen, thanks for the £10. Say just a little coffee money, thanks. D. Wright, thanks for the new membership. SpaceXer Ebob, another Ebob. whacked GSE pipes with my trusty hammer. Go SN15. Well, thank you, buddy, for the £2 or €2. God, why do I always mess those up? Jade Hansen, thank you for the new membership. Musical Wolves, again, thank you for the $5. They say mystery nose cone to test emergency nose cone ejection option. I mean, I don't know if they're gonna do any kind of launch escape or emergency escape pod option with the nose cone. That seems kind of like a whole bunch of additional complexity, but who knows what they will end up doing. Mystery nose cone ejection option. I don't. Who knows? Let's put it in the who knows category.
I think the mystery nose cone is just a structural stand. They're probably going to pull and twist on it and apply various forces to make sure the nose cone can withstand what is required to, do on ascent, as there's lots of aerodynamic forces and whatnot.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Just a test article. I mean,
Yeah, Oh, go ahead.
We've seen a bunch of different nose cone pieces. I mean, there was like nose cone header tanks pop tested at one point in like January of last year or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense that as they keep building out the system and refining it, they're going to want to keep testing components of it.
Yep, and I think it's actually the nose cone stand is going to be at least somewhat similar to the first stage booster test stand at McGregor, where they have the cap they put on top and they pull it down to simulate flight loads on the booster while test firing it. I can see it's that similar in purpose to what the nose cone stand is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of that. Good call. Johanski asks, or Johanski, or Johan KL? I don't know. I can read, I swear. Thank you for the 45 currency units. And they say, do you think Elon will launch SN15 on 420? It's like 50-50 at this point. It's not
He's
out
gonna
of the
try.
it's not out of the realm of possibility by any means. Perrin, Perrin has responded with another $2 super chat and said, Karib means approximately.
Approximately. Nice. I like it.
Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up there. Sebastian, thanks for the Canadian $2. They say, not EBOB hammer. What is this EBOB thing? Did I miss something? Thank you for the 2 Canadian. I want a good name. Thank you for the £5. Are they going to paint the GSE tanks to protect against corrosion? It's stainless steel. It doesn't stain, right?
It stains less. It doesn't
Yeah.
completely not stain, but it stains
It's not.
less.
It's not magic. Okay, fine.
Over time, they'll run into problems. I could see them painting them, to be honest, because like they painted the ones on the right here. You could see.
I do wonder what sort of insulation they will get, if any. Maybe they'll do like a whole bunch of spray-on foam or something, like a shuttle external tank, just to, you don't want the only protection for the cryogenic fluids to be stainless steel and then air. You want something in there, whether it's like, like the vacuum, like the fancy glasses you put whiskey or whatever favorite beverage you have in, there's all sorts of different ways to insulate liquids in containers. So we'll, maybe paint will be part of that mix there.
The current GSC-1 tank is not done. That is just the bare skin layer of the pretty internal tank. I'm not sure exactly what sort of insulation they will have. There will be an insulating layer.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
You can actually kind of see in like the aerial photos that RGV has taken, you can see there is sort of a foundation for what the outer layer will be.
Nice. Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. I mean, brief aside, I really love how the GSE-1 tank and all those tanks in that area are kind of mounted on the same concrete, like circular pad that they used to build starships on. Like they had those at the build site, and that's sort of before they had the steel, nice little transport rings that they use now. They had weird concrete like structures that you could walk into. They look exactly the same as what they're building tanks on now. And I think at the Starship update they like walked us through one deliberately, like check it out. But it's cool. It's cool to see them reuse pieces of the puzzle that they've already figured out. Let's see. Benjamin Black, thanks for the $5. They say Yucca Plant Fund. Is this for the tequila farm or for the for the yucca plant that got hurt in SN11's kerploding? Either way, thank you for the $5. And Steven, thank you for the $2. They say BN1 might roll to the pad as test pre-scrap. Maybe. Like to see how they could roll something. perhaps, you know, it could be used as a transport article, sort of like Shuttle Enterprise was, right? Am I thinking of the right thing? Shuttle Enterprise was used to like make sure Vandy had the correct cuts in the mountains, and like they put it on the back of the shuttle carrier aircraft and did tests with that. So yeah, maybe
Yeah.
we should call BN1 Enterprise.
I wouldn't disagree with that.
Nice. No C, thank you for the €5. They say after all that coffee money, Mary must have a terrible caffeine flash. So this is for Valerian. Wow, thank you, No C, very thoughtful. Scott Summers, thank you for the £5. They say how many people in chat beyond would be prepared to take a trip on the Dear Moon Project deal? Please respond with Y or N. All right, Scott, I think you might have like secretly gotten a poll going here, but I would go personally. I would definitely go. I'm kind of bummed they didn't like, you know, do the whole application thing. I feel sort of stupid for not having done it, but oh well.
I would go too. I applied and I haven't heard anything after phase 2, which was the pretty much enter your personal information stuff. I haven't heard a thing about that since after that.
Yeah, fingers crossed for everybody that is submitted. It'd be one heck of a ride.
Yeah.
Anish, thank you for the $2. They say hi, Trevor. Big fan of you and NSF. I don't think we have a Trevor on today, but either way, thank you, Anush, for the support. As a quick recap, on mic we have myself, Jack Beyer. I am the person who is talking right now, and looking at chat, it is going crazy with Y's and N's. So we're gonna have to ask Michael at some point to pull that poll there that is spontaneously erupted. Michael is one of the people on that does all the stuff in the background, software-wise, keeps the cameras going, keeps the lights on. Michael, what's up? Say your name or say something so people know what you sound like.
Hi, this is Ian Atkinson.
I beg your
I'm just
pardon?
kidding. I'm Michael. Yes, I am Michael. This is what
Excellent.
my voice sounds like. It is not Ian, I promise.
Ian, go.
Hello, I'm Ian Atkinson with NASA Spaceflight.
And then Das.
What's up?
I'm not going fast enough to graphics. I apologize.
I'm
That's
like
okay.
I'm giving you a speed run here. Sorry. Okay, let's see. Almost done with the super chats, and then we can get to the results of that poll there. Todd Groff, thank you for the $5. They say they're going to chill or boil off the GSE tanks. Non-cryofuel would be substantially higher pressure, wouldn't it? I assume chill. I don't think they would do boil off, but I am not a tankonomer.
I mean, like have like wait.
I heard that.
You can't just add onomer to the end of every word, Jack.
I
You know this,
can't.
right?
I can. Try and stop me. But yeah, does anyone have any thoughts on the GSE tanks there?
I mean, I could see them having a sort of recondenser, but that depends on like what insulation they go with. If they go with good enough insulation, they might be able to just be good with boil off and just vent every now and then. But if it's really not good, I could see them going with like a recondenser, like what they have on the pad now.
I think for methane they will have to have a recondenser or a flare stack. So I'm guessing it's going to be a recondenser. But for liquid oxygen, I'm not sure what they will do. But the nitrogen is what they use to recondense with. So one way or another, the nitrogen will most likely be boiled off, and that's not a big problem because they are building an air separation unit at the production site, to produce liquid oxygen. And one of the byproducts of an air separation unit, where you're trying to get liquid oxygen, is nitrogen, because nitrogen is the most abundant gas in the atmosphere. So when you're producing liquid oxygen, you end up with a ton of nitrogen left over. So SpaceX is going to have more than enough nitrogen to do their testing.
Yeah, I'm looking at pictures I've shot of the plumbing area, that little bunker area over by the orbital tank farm, and there's two panels that were visible on this day. It was, I guess, the 13th of March, and there is one panel that says gaseous CH4 recharge, 400 bar storage, and there's another panel that says gaseous nitrogen recharge, 200 bar storage. So that sounds like both of those will have some sort of, I don't know, recondenser, recharge, whatever you want to call it, but definitely will be interesting to see how that tank farm grows up.
They definitely try to put really cold propellant in the vehicle. So nitrogen is not a propellant again, but for a cryo-proof test, they might try to super chill it. I'm not sure.
Let's see. Super good question, Todd. Thank you for the support. Thomas, thank you for the $10. They say it seems like flaps will be really vulnerable part of Starship during re-entry other than tiles. Are there going to be any other tricks to deal with the thermal load and drag forces? Who knows? Maybe they'll do some like transpirational cooling on the flaps or something. They've talked about transpirational cooling in the past. I don't know if that ever got truly scrapped or if it's just one of the ideas that they're juggling. Who knows? But it'll be interesting to see how the entire thermal protection system grows up over time. Just like, I mean, so much of this. We're just early days right now, waiting to see how these things plan out. Palace Plane, that's another name that pops up, again with the North Korean dollars joke, because I'm a big dummy, but thank you for the Norwegian kroner, 50 of them, and the love from Norway. Thanks for the support. Donald,
Norway
thank
is
you.
never going to let you off the hook for that.
No, Norway loves me and hates me for that, and I apologize to all of Norway. Uh, Donald, thank you for the new membership. Jonathan, thanks for the £2. They say, please say hi to my friend who finished an exam today. Hi to the friend of Jonathan Tanner who finished an exam today. Hopefully you got a good grade.
Always good
Bugo,
to finish exams.
yeah, right? You don't want to just walk out of them. Bugo, thank you for the 25 currency units. They say, nose cone looks similar with Dragon's docking port. What do you think about orbital docking of Starship? I don't think that's what that nose cone is going to have on it or is testing, but I do not know. But it does look kind of similar, right? Bugo's a cool name. Stephen Dickinson, thank you for the $5. They say GSE 1 through 6, I think there's 6 slots, contain some consumables, same consumables as existing farm. Will there be plumbing between farms? Makes sense for truck deliveries. I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on tank farms and whatnot, but I super think that having long propellant lines like that might not be the best, thing that you would want to do in terms of having the propellant get to where it's going at the appropriate temperature. I think things need to be kind of in a narrow band of temperature ranges and of what they're expecting. And, obviously they could probably mitigate for environmental effects of piping stuff that far, but why dig a bunch of trenches and put a whole bunch of piping across the entire launch site when you just have 2 different tank farms? But who knows? Maybe they did that, and there's photos of it that RGV has already, posted and that I've missed. Who knows? But it doesn't seem to me like that would be the optimal way to do that. Anybody have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think you'd want to keep them separate, just in case. Also, if you have any issues at one farm, you don't accidentally take out the other. I think just kind of keep them separate. And also, there's going to be the second orbital launch site too. The orbital pad B, which will probably use the same pad as the same tank infrastructure as well, I would guess. And
There's even been go ahead.
There is a second tank farm on the planning document for the second orbital pad.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. There's who knows if that's still the plan or what. Things obviously change rapidly in Boca, but just like there's 2 orbital pads planned, there have been planning documents that show 2 orbital tank farms.
So we'll be on the lookout for GSE 8 through 14.
Yeah, right. I mean, it makes sense. The tank farm that we see now for the suborbital pads is not anywhere close to enough for fueling a super heavy, and also not in the right spot. So they're going to need to build that infrastructure out when they start wanting to get into orbital flights, which hopefully seems soon. Thank you for the support there, Stephen. JLPTV.
Really quickly, Jack, sorry to interrupt. I will add, there are 7 of the normal GSE tanks, but there is 1 water tank per pad, so a total of 8 tanks.
Aha. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So you're telling me SpaceX is building a water tower at long last?
It's not a water tower, it's a water tank.
Thank you.
Let me have my
Michael.
moment here.
No moment. No. Anyways, before I digress, JLPTV, thank you for the $4.99. Say, what starship do you think will have the most TPS tiles before SN20? SN19. If SN19 exists. It seems like every starship they put out doesn't seem like it has been. So far, every starship since 8 has had more tiles than the last. So it seems like a steady progression into a full thermal heat shield. So just a matter of time. And it looks like this next one, I'm going to guess this is from my dad, saying with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Dad. Yes, I am a junior. He has the same name as me. He says, how much do I donate to get Jack to shave his beard?
Which Jack, though?
I mean, me, I presume.
Then it could be him. He didn't specify which Jack.
I don't know if he has. What was he talking in the third person?
I don't know.
Joke's on you,
Sure,
Dad. I'm not
fair,
going to shave
fair.
it. Never shaving it. Well, no, I'll shave it when it gets annoying, which is probably pretty soon. It's getting long.
I
But
think
either
we
way,
have the super chat fundraising goal. Like, after X amount of super chats, you have to shave your beard.
maybe. I mean, I've shaved it for to give. I think it was SN9. I was like, here, I'm gonna shave my. I'm gonna shave my my beard and give SN9 good luck, and we all remember how that turned out. But who knows? It's beard time right now.
Okay, I have
either
it,
way,
Jack. You can only shave your beard when a starship sticks a landing. That gets so ugly.
There you go. Okay, it'll get real long. I mean, who knows how long it'll take for them to stick the landing? I used to think it would be soon, but we'll see. Hopefully, it is soon. But either way, thanks, Dad. Thanks for the wanting me to shave my beard on stream. Higher Pond Jensen. Hopefully, I'm completely. Yeah, no, I butchered that. Jensen, thank you for the what is it? Icelandic kroners for the 3,000 of them. Wow. Capital Capital Daywalker, thank you for the $5 and beer money on Fleet Cam. I don't really go on Fleet Cam too much, but I know you guys do. Hopefully
What?
hopefully
You
somebody saw
crazy?
that. I mean, hey, I got a lot to do. I like Fleet Cam. I'm glad that it exists. I do go and check stuff out, but I'm not one of the people that just goes in there and hangs out for a bunch of time, which is fun to do. I know a lot of people really like doing that, and it's a 24-hour stream, and you can go in and hang out on Fleet Cam anytime you want to. Just look for it on our channel.
I
Not
don't know,
hating.
Jack. I don't think you're a true NSF fan if you don't watch Fleet Cam 24/7.
Man, I'm an original fleet chaser. Come on. I was out at Port of Long Beach shooting JRTI, the first one, before they even put wings on it. Come on, man. Give me some cred.
As a quick
Jack.
status update. Go ahead, Jack.
Go ahead, Michael.
I was just gonna say a quick status update because I know more people are joining, and we've been answering a lot of chat questions, which is good. But that frost line does not seem to be changing much, so still waiting to see what happens. Usually with these proof tests, when they start loading the nitrogen quickly, we will see a lot of venting from the two vents kind of midway up the vehicle, and we are not seeing that right now. So expect to see some venting happening when they start loading it more quickly.
That makes sense. Someone asking what our favorite Taylor Swift song is. I don't know that I could name it.
What?
Anybody else want to chime in on that? Either way, thank you for the $2, Anish.
Is this
I'd have to
Trevor
look one
in
up.
like a different account or something?
I was gonna
Trevor's
make a,
burner account.
thank you. Yeah, I was gonna make a Trevor joke there. Perfect. Gunfox, thank you for the $5. You want to keep the tank farms on their own little system other than inflow system, but underground lines will be protected and keep the temp very well. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm not a tankonomer. I'm just a Texas tank watcher. But good point, and thank you for the support. Mike S. with the new membership. Thank you, Mike S. Again, all of our members, you are seriously key in helping us do what we do. That's why we put up a little graphic at the end of NSF Live. And thank all of our launch directors and what is the flight engineers. And, couldn't do what we do without you guys. Just wait. We've got all kinds of stuff in the works. We've always got all kinds of stuff in the works. So by voting with your dollars and becoming a member, it super helps us out and helps us be able to do what we do. Brian, wow, $25. Thank you so much for the support there, Brian. They say, love what you all do. You got my son interested in space, finally. Keep up the amazing work. That means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to all you guys, too, to be able to inspire people to be excited about not only the future, but about space, because who knows what career paths that will lead to down the line. Almost done with the super chats. Anthony M, thank you for the $9.99. They say, always been curious, is there a way you guys can cover or have a vid of them putting a Falcon 9 on one of the pads for launch? I don't know if I want to say pull a DOS here and say in work, but maybe someday we'll see what we can do. That would be really neat. But all of that stuff is in Kennedy Space Center, Cape Canaveral, or Vandenberg, and a lot of times not visible to the public or even media. But that makes me want to go to Vandenberg now and shoot the booster getting rolled out from Surf Beach or something. I wonder if that would be possible. That would be a really cool time lapse. Owen Horn, thank you for the new membership. And Amtank, thank you for the new membership. Thank you, all y'all. That's awesome of you. Let's see, what levels did you come in at? Capcom and Padrat, awesome. Padrat, you get the daily preview videos and the members emoji in chat. And Capcom, you get all that stuff plus Discord access. So enjoy the Discord access there. Kage Tenant, thank you for the £5. They say, NSF is my favorite channel. I watch every time you're live if I can. Jack, I apologize for the rocket pun poem before. Did you do a rocket pun poem? I might have missed it. And Amtank, thank you for the $2, and good luck with your application to work in Boca Chica. All right. That is all the super chats we have for now, and memberships. I mean, the support is amazing. So thank you all. I'm definitely not complaining, but hopefully you don't get tired of me going through and thanking everybody. We can get to some viewer questions now. And again, seriously, thank you for all the support. Oh, really quick, Austin Brown. Austin Brown, thanks for the new membership.
And nobody super chat. No super chats allowed.
came in at Capcom. Awesome. Thank you, Austin Brown. All right. Moratorium on super chats. Let's answer some questions.
Go for
I like
it.
one right
Ian.
here.
Give
Ian,
us some questions.
what do you think, Ian? Do you think SN15 will fly higher, or do you think it's going to go for the same height as previous Starship tests?
I would say it's probably going to go the same height as the previous ones, around the same height. So I'd say between 10 to 15 kilometers, if I had to guess. I don't really see them going higher just yet. I'd say maybe want to polish up the landing first, and then
Yeah.
start going higher, maybe to 30 kilometers or 50 kilometers or whatever floats their boat, I guess.
Yeah, SN15 will go to 10 kilometers. I hope if it sticks landing, the next one will go higher, but I think they really want to get that 10-kilometer flight profile working before they push the bounds further.
There's another question here asking, have we got TFS installed yet? That is TFS. Would that be?
I think
I
they mean
misspoke.
FTS. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. I was thinking either thermal protection system. That's an F. FTS. I don't think they have the FTS installed yet, do they?
No, they don't, and it does kind of look like it almost with that white dot on the side of SN15, which kind of looks like those same white boxes that the FTS is in. But that white dot is an antenna, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
think
it's-
it might be a Starlink, possibly a
heard-
Starlink terminal, because there was an SEC filing that said they're gonna be using a Starlink terminal in an upcoming test flight. I think it was Net 420, of course, was the date on the SEC application. I think, Jack, you had mentioned on a previous stream it might have been something similar to what's been seen on Falcon 9. I'm not entirely sure, but it does look like the approximate shape to be a Starlink user terminal.
Yeah, I don't know either way. I had just seen speculation that it was a Falcon 9 derived antenna type, but it could as equally likely be a Starlink antenna.
I will say,
I don't know.
one piece of evidence is that somebody tweeted the FCC application and a picture of that terminal or antenna in one tweet, and Elon didn't like it. I'm not saying that's confirmation that is exactly what that antenna is for, but Elon did like a tweet saying it was for Starlink, so take for that what you will.
Yeah, that seems like pretty close to confirmation. Not, it's not ironclad, but that would lead me to believe that it's a Starlink antenna.
And I'm actually wondering, because I remember back on SN11 on the SpaceX webcast, there were issues with telemetry dropout, mostly with camera video dropout. So if they have a Starlink dish on there and the Starlink dish works, do you think we might get straight clear telemetry, or straight clear video more often?
I wonder about the orientation though, Ian, because that's at such a angle. I wonder if it's only going to work when they're doing a belly flop.
That's what I'm thinking
Then
too.
it'll
Yeah.
be like pointed towards the sky more. I
Yep,
wonder if the purpose though, Ian, because it's on the side that won't be re-entering, obviously. But it's not like if they wanted, ascent footage, you think they'd put it up top on the nose cone, because it's kind of lower down on that. What's it called? Windward side, right? Or the opposite?
Leeward side.
Leeward side. Thank you. Yes, the leeward side. I almost wonder if it's going to be for trying to get telemetry when they're re-entering or something.
That is a great idea, and I could absolutely see that, because there would be turbulence, but there wouldn't be as much plasma straight behind the vehicle. So they might be able to get at least some telemetry back, maybe pings of I'm alive, because with SN20, which is pretty much seems like it's going to be throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks in terms of an orbital flight, any bit of telemetry possible during reentry would probably be beneficial. So just being able to send basic things of just like, hey, I'm alive, this is my orientation, this is my altitude, would probably be immensely beneficial, rather than just being like, okay, we have no telemetry for the next minute. So I could absolutely see that. It's a great idea, actually, or a great point. We have another question here from Parth asking, are they testing different sizes of heat shield tiles on SN15? And yes, they are. They are testing not only the main size heat shield tiles, which I don't even know how big they would be because we haven't really seen any scale on them, but I would guess around maybe 2 feet in size. Would you guys think that? Maybe 1 foot? The normal hexagon tiles?
I mean, Ian, you're the professional
Ah,
heat
shoot,
tile
yeah.
counter, so Can you like do some division on how many heat tiles it takes to cover the aft section compared to the diameter or something? I don't know.
All right. All right. I just got a message from a friend saying just over a foot approximately. So, yeah, that sounds about good. So they do have smaller size tiles on there as well. Some small size tiles, which are about 2/3 the size of that. So they are testing different sized tiles on SN15. But they have not tested any nose cone tiles yet, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah,
Question here. Oh,
I do wonder how the tip of the nose cone is going to be covered. That seems like it's going to be a lot of smaller tiles. Maybe we'll see.
I could see it being smaller tiles, and then right up towards the very tip of the header tank being several large tile segments, somewhat similar to the shuttle's nose cone, but broken up a bit more. Question here from Gaming Falls asking, how long do you think the launch tower will take to complete? Well, given that we've seen on the public documentation that the permit for the launch tower goes up until about July, I would guess they'll have it done by July. And that would probably just be the bare bones tower, just the structure and maybe the crane on top. Then from there, they would put all like the wiring, lighting, propellant feed lines if necessary. We'll have to wait and see what the launch tower will actually look like. But I would assume the base structure would be done by early summer, especially to facilitate an orbital launch attempt in July. You'd want to have at least a basic launch tower in place. A question here from James asking, when do you think we'll see a Starship and Super Heavy join together, if only as a manufacturing test? I honestly think the first time we'll see a Starship and Super Heavy together would be when they're going for an orbital launch attempt, because I don't see them building a Starship and a Super Heavy that would be capable of joining together and fueling each other if they're not going to try to test those same vehicles on an orbital flight. What do you guys think?
Um. So as is the question saying, just if it would ever happen separate from a launch attempt as a test?
Yes.
Am I reading that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it happening. I don't know if we're going to see it happening and then that same stack is not launched, but I fully expect them to do an integration test and fit checks and a couple of wet dress rehearsals on a full stack before they launch it. So that to me seems very likely, but I don't know if we're going to see them build Pathfinder vehicles that do not end up launching as a full stack.
Yep, I agree with that. A question here from Lucas asking, is Starship friction stir welded? And the answer is no. They actually use more traditional, I believe. I don't know exactly what they use right now, but I know in the past they have used TIG welding. I know they now use robotic welders, but I don't know if that's welding or arc welding. But they do not use friction. Friction stir welding is when you take a sort of high pressure bit, push it into them two sheets of metal, and sort of twist it. So as it spins, it generates heat and meshes the two metals together. Starship does not use that. It uses more traditional welding. Friction stir welding is used on, I believe, the Falcon 9. It's used on the Space Launch System, used on more traditional rockets. But Starship is really simpler in terms of welding.
I think Elon
Yeah.
said the stainless steel in Starship is too thin to work with friction stir welding.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
That
I
would
think
make
it's
sense.
I think it's TIG welded still, but that could have changed.
Yeah, it's definitely not friction stir welded.
Yeah. Question here from Space Explorer 16 asking, do you think they'll turn BN1 into a few GSE tanks? And my opinion on that would be no, because while they are somewhat similar in construction, why it may sound simple to just hook it up, there's a lot of issues with that. And because BN1 is actually two tanks together, you would need to either split those two tanks or run those two tanks at the same time. Because if you put fuel or propellant in the top tank of BN1 and not in the bottom tank, you'll get what happened for BN3 when it crumples down on the pad. But I don't think there would really be any benefit into just doing that,
Yeah.
into putting BN1 on the as a GSE tank.
They're getting really good at building these tanks, and I don't think the benefits of refurbishing a tank for something outside its original purpose outweighs the trade-off when you just build something exactly how you need it to work the first time. There are some differences between Super Heavy and the tanks that they are using for the ground support equipment.
Sounds good.
And we
And a
did just
question.
see a brief vent, sorry, Ian,
Oh,
from
you're fine.
Starship. So I'm hoping that we're going to start seeing that frost increase. But so far, not a lot of changes in the past 30 minutes. But hopefully we'll start seeing that fast fill of the liquid nitrogen soon.
And a question here from Jacob. This is a bit off topic, but I just want to touch on this. Asking, why does NASA continue to fund Starliner when Dragon is complete and proven to be safe and reliable? Well, the reason they still do that is because you don't want to have just one method of transportation to the space station. Because what happens if there's an issue with Dragon down the road and you don't have Starliner? Say, in a hypothetical, you don't have Starliner. What do? You'd have to shuffle around the Soyuz flights just to get any amount of people up on the space station. So to have two up there, even if one's having a problem, that's exactly why you have two. The reason that there are two, because Starliner had an issue, now Dragon can take on the lead. And say if Dragon has the issue down the road, Starliner can take on a little bit of extra load, so they can toss back and forth with each other. This is exactly why they have two vehicles and not just one at a time. Because if you lose your main vehicle, you're out of luck. So it's still good, even though Dragon is reliable now. It seems to be reliable. It's only flown a few times. So there could be an issue down the road, even if it's mundane, but it could ground Dragon for a small amount of time. You always want to have backups, especially in spaceflight.
And
Yeah, I mean,
Starliner's,
both. Go ahead.
Starliner's already been funded, so it's not like there's a new funding round coming up and NASA has decided that they're going to give Starliner several more billion or whatever. The program has been funded through 6 operational missions. Yes, there will be more beyond that, remains to be seen, but the contracts have already been signed.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
Most
and
of the
just
funding's already
imagine
been done.
if after each shuttle, mishap that had occurred, we had had another vehicle. We wouldn't have had years of downtime in between both Challenger, after Challenger and after Columbia. Having a redundancy is good. Having redundancy is good. Having redundancy. Oh, I'm sorry, a bad joke.
Alrighty. And another question here from LDT asking, did SN16 start stacking yet? No, SN16 has not started stacking yet, but they have started rolling out some segments of SN16. So we saw, I believe it was yesterday, Mary posted on Twitter a 4-ring stack with 960 tiles I counted on there. So already a large amount of heat shield tiles for SN16, but they are starting to roll out the sections of SN16. So we should see stacking start probably in the next week or so, if I had to guess. But also you're having to work with the GSE tank stacking as well, so it's going to be a bit of a messy schedule over the next few weeks as they go Starship GSE, and work Super Heavy BN2 into there as well. Another question here from Dave asking, can you describe how the hydraulic thrust simulator functions? So what the thrust simulator is, it's a sort of hydraulic mount underneath Starship, so underneath SN15. You can't see it right now. It's sort of under the launch mount, and there's stuff in the way that you can't really see it. What they do, they attach a hydraulic ram to the base of the launch mount on the inside, and it pushes up on the engine mount of Starship. And the reason they do that is to test and ensure that the welds and just the structure of Starship in general can handle a simulated thrust load on the base of the vehicle without having to actually fuel it up and potentially put Raptor engines at risk. So it's a more simple way just to make sure the vehicle is completely ready to have Raptor engines installed and it can take the forces involved. Question here from Kira asking, why doesn't SpaceX use the same technology for landing the Starship rocket as they do for the booster landings? So with the booster, Super Heavy is going to come in sort of straight down. There's going to be no belly flop, nothing. Is going to come straight down, land your engine or ignite your engines and land straight up. With Starship, as we know, they do the belly flop where they come in horizontal, ignite the engines and flip. So the reason they do the belly flop is to slow the vehicle down a bit more during its descent. Use the atmosphere to your advantage. And the reason they don't do the straight down is because you save a large amount of propellant by slowing yourself down in any way possible. So it means that saving propellant, they can put more towards getting more payload into orbit, having a little more margin for landing. Just makes it a bit easier on the propellant load. Now, it is a lot more difficult on the vehicle to have to deal with doing the belly flop, but the benefits, it seems like SpaceX is confident the benefits outweigh the risks with the belly flop maneuver. And we'll go through some super chats here. We have some coming in from Powell with the 5, I believe that is £5 super chat. No message there, but thank you very much, Powell. From Christoph here asking your thoughts on the mystery structure with a €2 super chat. As we discussed this a bit before, we think that the mystery structure may be for doing structural testing on the nose cone because they have not taken Starship to any very high speeds yet, such as supersonic. So they may want to just be testing here on the ground to make sure the nose cone can handle the stresses it will be going through. So they'll essentially, what we think, again, this is speculation here, what we think they'll do is attach some cables and pull the top of the nose cone down with the same force they think the atmosphere would put on the nose cone during a high speed flight, just to make sure that it can hold the loads and not crumple, because a crumpling nose cone would not be a good day. Question here from Cage with a £2 super chat asking any plans to construct an extra road. So they are currently not building an extra road. I would assume you mean along Highway 4 in Boca Chica, which is the highway you can't really see here, but it's in front of the camera. They are building a road actually between Port of Brownsville and Highway 4, which may be used for Starship and Super Heavy in the future to sort of service the oil rigs that they'll be landing on. But no, they're not building any extra roads here around the launch pad. And we have a new member here from Tech Brigade. Thank you very much for the membership. They took the Pad Rat rank, which is very helpful to the channel, so thank you very much for the support there. A question here, super chat here from Marius. I think they're poking some fun at Jack here with some North Korean kroners. Love from Norway. Quick question, when hop? Quick answer, I don't know. But thank you very much for the support there, Marius. And Rulon here, new member as well. Thank you very much for the support, Rulon. Question here from a super chat, Josh, with £4.99. Will they try to catch the booster on the first attempt, or will they build another pad so they can land the booster and the ship? That's a good question there. So it seems like I'm not sure about catching the booster, but it seems like they don't want to land it on a landing pad. So I would assume they're either going to try to catch the booster or maybe just expend it. But again, plans are changing all the time at Boca Chica, so we'll really just have to see. I hate saying we'll have to wait and see all the time, but that's really all I can say at this point. And a $10 super chat from Justin here saying, no question, just support. Well, I appreciate that very much, Justin. I'm sure we all do. Thank you very much for the support. And question here from David, $10 super chat. Thank you, David, asking, is redundancy good? Of course redundancy is good. I think that's poking fun at Jack earlier. But yes, redundancy is always good in spaceflight. You always want to have redundancy in your most important systems.
Yeah, you always want to have redundancy in your most important system. Redundancy is good.
Yep.
Sorry, I just wanted to be redundant again.
No, it's okay, Jack. You like being redundant. And a super chat here, $4.99 from Tyrone. Love what you guys do. Thank you very much, Tyrone. We appreciate your support. Love what you're doing. And a question here from Rise, £199. It needs to be more pointy. Good work, guys. Thank you very much for the support. And Steven here with a £5 super chat. Have y'all got built yet? You're doing yours while tank watching, and thanks for the coverage. I have not bought a Lego shuttle. I know there may be some people at NSF who may be mad at me for saying that, but I do not have the room or the money to buy a Lego space shuttle right now. So if I did have the room, I would love to buy one. Anyone else here got the Lego space shuttle yet?
Basically the same. I don't really have like disposable income or space, but man, that would be a fun build for sure.
I have one of the older ones that I have not opened. I don't know if I should open it because it's going to lose value if I open it, but I don't know exactly. I know there's been a couple of models. It's it's from the early 2000s, I think. I'm not sure exactly which one, but it's a different model than the current one.
Maybe if they release a robotic camera version of the Lego Space Shuttle, I'll get it and assemble it.
Oh no.
We should like do like you can build your own Lego kits. We should build a robotic camera Lego kit and then put it on our store or something. No? All right, fine.
I mean, I do have actually, as Michael said, I do have this an old shuttle model. It was the shuttle with external tank and boosters. It's currently under my bed right now, but it is fully assembled, and it's a really cool model. I got it about 10 years ago, but that's a really cool model.
Nice.
And finally, we have a super chat here from Ilya asking, how can I ask Elon Musk a question? Well, the best way to ask Elon would be to tweet at him on Twitter. And that's pretty
Just
much
add
all I
him.
can tell you.
Yeah, just add
Yeah.
him. Everybody else does. If he
Yeah.
tweets about like the sky being blue, ask him a technical question about Tesla. I mean,
A lot of people do that.
yeah.
Hey, it works. So I mean, every now and then I get a response from him about something, and it's nice to get a little bit of background on, if we don't know this or that. So, worth a try. Just add him on Twitter.
Yeah,
Very true.
shoot your shot. Shoot your shot.
And
Yeah.
the next one, next super chat is from DYU89. Oh, hey, what's up? I have no idea who you are. asking asking when Jack in a kayak. At some point. Like, I'm glad that the beard memes and the North Korean dollars memes are outliving the kayak slightly, but we can cling to it still. It'll happen. I do sort of wish I'd had it with me for my most recent times in Boca Chica, since I was there for so long. I almost certainly would have gone kayaking, but there's always going to be future trips to Boca.
Do we see more frost forming? It's hard to tell.
It
but
looks the
on-
same to me.
Yeah, it looks the same to me.
Yeah,
On
same here.
the other camera, though, the other angle from the village,
That one?
that one.
That kind of looks like more, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost looks like
Yeah.
the area inside the flap zone. It's a terrible term. It looks like the flaps are sort of shielding or like sort of partially insulating. I don't know. Maybe my eyes are just playing tricks on me, but it does sort of look like the frost is starting to creep up there.
I think it's just
Right.
reflections.
Could be, yeah.
No, I think that's frost forming.
It looks like it's increasing like as we speak.
Yeah, let's keep it over. Let's check this one here. We may have a closer in.
Oh, I just reminded myself. We never looked at the results of the poll or whatever when chat did Y's and N's. I forget what the question. Anyways,
Anyways, I don't even remember the question. Do you?
no.
And a question here from a Curveless Sphere asking, will the upcoming Crew 2 mission have any impact on Boca Chica operations of SpaceX or all hands on deck on getting people to the ISS? Or are they completely separate teams? So they are completely separate teams. There is if anything, there's very, very little crossover between Starship and Falcon 9 teams. Actually, I would say there's pretty much none between the Crew Dragon and Starship teams. So whatever goes on in Boca Chica does not affect what's going on in Cape Canaveral. And it does look to me like frost is very much increasing on Starship now. I think Jack was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like condensation's forming.
That's
Yeah.
good. That's what we want to see.
Yep, absolutely.
Fill it up with more nitrogen, and again, there are 2 tanks. So right now, the liquid oxygen tank is what is being filled with liquid nitrogen, and then they usually move on to the methane tank after. The methane tank is the tank on top, and it runs towards about the halfway point of the vehicle, and then the top section is the payload section. So you got the aft section with the engines, then the liquid oxygen tank, which is frosting now. Above that is the methane tank, and above that is the payload area and the nose cone.
And another question here from Harry asking, do you know if SN15 has Raptors installed yet? And no, SN15 does not have Raptors installed yet. And we know that because thrust ram installed, and the thrust ram connects directly to the Raptor attachment points on the bottom of Starship. So you can't have the thrust ram in place if you have Raptors installed on the vehicle. So no, there are no Raptors installed just yet on SN15.
Aha. I never thought about that before, but that makes good sense. Like, there's nothing for the thrust ram to attach to if the Raptors are in place.
Yep. And a question here from the Observer, is there any worry of BN3 crumbling under the weight of SN20? I think that absolutely is a concern, but I think there are ways to manage that. The main way would be keeping the booster pressurized at all times, but that does throw me back to not only Starship SN3, which did crumble under the weight of its upper tank being filled, but also the famous Atlas Agena, I believe it was, that crumpled on the pad because the booster lost pressure. So as long as we keep the booster pressurized, I don't think there's any risk of any collapse. But if they do lose pressure on the booster, it's anyone's game, really. So just keep your boosters pressurized, I guess, is the moral of the story there.
Keep your boosters pressurized. If you learn one thing in space flight, it's keep your boosters pressurized.
I don't want to
Back
imagine
in
how
my
that can be
day.
taken out of context, so I'm going to move on to the next question here. David asking, how long will we have to wait for a Starship prototype with more than 3 Raptors? So it seems like that's actually very close on the horizon. They have been testing out Raptor vacuum mounts on a test bulkhead. They've been cutting holes in it, essentially, a bulkhead that they won't be using. I believe that's from SN14, actually. But they have been testing mounting points for Raptor vacuums. So I would assume that means we're going to see them happening soon. Maybe on SN20 with the orbital flight, or maybe they won't want to risk those just yet. But I think they are very soon on the horizon, as in probably before the end of this year. That's my guess.
That thing is really frosting up, isn't it?
It's starting to look, yeah, very frosty.
Yeah.
Like a water bottle on a warm day.
Yeah, there you go.
It also
Or-
looks like the methane tank on the far left-hand side. If you go, you have like the upper part of the LOX tank that's frosted now. So it looks like it might be extending a little bit into the methane tank on the left-hand side there, possibly. I'm not sure if that's just from the surrounding tank being cold, if there's actually liquid nitrogen in the methane tank right now.
Just looking at some of the different angles. This is always tough because this angle sort of has the sun in its eyes, you know, so we don't get
can-
as much
Oh,
contrast.
venting there.
There was
We
a little
just saw
vent, yeah.
methane. I think there was some of the methane tank, maybe? Hard to tell.
Yeah, it's such a tiny
Yeah,
little
I think
vent.
that was the methane tank because the cables go into the nose cone right above the methane tank, so
Yeah.
it might be loading the methane tank too right now.
And
And of
on that
course-
note, I believe I will actually have to head out for this stream. Thank you all for having me. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good day, everyone in chat.
Good deal, y'all. That's the voice of Ian Atkinson, one of our commentator, editors, writers, etc., for NASA spaceflight. You can follow him on Twitter at Ian Pineapple. I have never asked why it's Ian Pineapple, but Ian, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. That question, I guess I'll have to go unanswered.
Yeah,
actu-
just next time on NASA spaceflight. Like,
Well, the
Tune
short
in to
answer is
find out
my
the story
username is...
behind the pineapple.
Huh?
the story behind the pineapple. Stay tuned
Next
next
time.
time. Yeah, when we'll
I mean, I
find
can
the
share it
story behind
now,
the
but
pineapple.
I'll keep you all on the edge of your seats.
Static fire stream.
There you go. Static Fire Stream.
All right, I'll see y'all later. Have a good night.
Good deal. Ian, thank you so much for joining us again, y'all. That is Ian Atkinson. You hear his voice on the webcasts quite frequently. Hopefully you hear more from him in the future, but one of our fantastic contributors to NASA spaceflight. Also, purveyor of the commentary for that rare commentary video that we did, the pre-recorded Starship update. We're looking to do more of those. It's just a bandwidth thing. And, I mean, not like internet bandwidth, like people who have enough hours in the day to write scripts and stuff. But that's Ian over there.
This updated timeline to CH4 tank frosting, because it looks like to me that frost is climbing up. Do you agree, Jack?
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And it's wild to me how much different it is looking at cryo proof of a full Starship versus just the tank section. I have to keep reminding myself that where that white dot is approximately just above that is all nose cone space. So, you know, we don't expect the whole entire thing to get frosty, but perhaps the whole tank section. And it's throwing me off a little bit. For a second there, you said it was moving on to the CH4 tank, the methane tank, and I was like, what? Is it really that high? And it's like, yeah, it is, because a lot of that is nose cone that we're looking at there.
But I think we have another person on commentary to replace Ian.
I think
I
so.
think you might.
Thomas, we get you connected there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, everybody?
Did I miss that? When did you connect? Because I thought I glanced
Like-
over and I was like, oh, okay, still getting
No,
connected.
like 5 seconds ago. You
Okay,
probably
good.
didn't.
Whew. I was going to do the intro, then I glanced over one way, then I glanced back, and there you are, sneaking into the stream. Folks, we are now joined by another member of the NASA spaceflight crew, Thomas. The Thomas fan club looks like they're representing in chat already. So Thomas Burghardt is one of our commentator, editor. I'm just going to start saying member of the NASA spaceflight team because we all do so many different things. Thomas, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm waiting for my production preview to load, but right now I'm looking at a loading symbol, so I'm assuming, Starship's all frosty and things. At least that's what I get the impression that of what has been going on.
It's pretty frosty looking. Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the tank farm spool up and belch a whole bunch of vapor like it does, and we saw Starship sort of get frosty at the bulkhead weld, the aft bulkhead there, and chill for a minute, haha, and it kind of entered a steady state for a while, and now it has rapidly filled up the entire LOX tank and is now appears to be in the process of filling up the methane tank above it. So even that original frost ring down there at the bulkhead weld, you can see it's getting sort of whiter and denser, so or more dense, I guess I should say. But yeah, this thing is definitely in the midst of a cryo-proof. I'm excited to see the next step when they sort of have it full or as full as they want it and hold, and then they'll do some venting out of the side vents that we typically see and sort of make sure it can hold pressure. So we're well into it at this point.
Yeah, and I can see that now. Definitely frosty, definitely cryo-proof, and of course, this is kind of the first test SN15's done, right? I mean, they rolled it out, and this is kind of that first step towards getting engines installed, getting a static fire test done, and then of course flight. So this is this is the start of another launch campaign, and somehow they just keep cranking out starships down there. So, yeah, definitely very exciting.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I can run through some super chats really quick. Reese, thank you for the $1.99. They say, "What year should I book my Mars hotel for?" I'm gonna say 2039. No, Siri, shut up! What the heck? Hotels in Marshalltown.
What?
What is that all about?
Leaks.
Oh my
What are you
god!
doing in Marshalltown?
Oh man. Oh, what is that all about? Anyways,
It's a
I'm
new
gonna say
robotic
2030.
camera location, right?
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
it's me betraying the fact that I'm a robot live on stream. But yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna say
2039 is not a bad estimate. I mean, I think that might even be on the conservative side. But hey, I think that's if you're gonna book your hotel, you don't want to book your hotel for a date that the hotel doesn't exist yet. So
yeah, you beat me to it. I was gonna say the exact same thing. You typically want the hotel to exist when you book a room at it. So it's kind of a prerequisite there. Um, Space Ignorant, thank you for the $4.99. They say, "Look at us watching a cryo ram test, just like the old days." Yeah, right. This does
it
feel
has
like the old
been
days.
a while since they've done one of those, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's. I like this. This is classic tank watching. Go for it.
I just realized something, Jack. This is the first time they have used the thrust ram, thrust simulator, thrust shocker, whatever you want to call it, with a full stack Starship.
Oh, because previously they installed SN8's nose cone at the pad after they did
that
this
is different.
test. Wow. Okay, so yeah, no wonder it's throwing me off. We literally haven't seen anything like this yet.
Huh.
Neat. Good point, Michael. Unknown, thank you for the €2 to say, "What are current plans after SN20? SN21, of course. Haha.
Or 26.
Technically
or
not
32.
wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, or 26, depending on how they feel about omitting numbers like they like to do. But no, really, I'm not trying to be flippant. Thank you for the support. We just don't know. They're going to keep making them and keep refining them, and we'll just see what happens.
And keep
Wes,
doing
thank you
cool
for the-
things in orbit.
Yeah, hopefully. Like refueling and re-entering safely and not kerploding. Wes Irvin, thank you for the 420. In the no comment, Trevor, thank you for the £5. They say, "What SN do you think will get some windows?" Subscriber sends Starhopper Days. Thanks for the Texas Tank Sanity all through lockdown and beyond. Well, thank you, Trevor, for being a Texas Tank watching OG. I don't know when they're going to do Windows. That might be quite a ways down the line, but I was super, super excited to see that announcement from SpaceX the other day about Dragons that aren't going to the space station having a cool like cupola type window. So hopefully windows are on the brain at SpaceX, and I'm not of the opinion that a screen is a sufficient substitute for a large, awesome window. I want to see
No
with my
way.
own darn eyes. Come on.
Right.
If somebody ever tells you that a window can be substituted with a screen, as 2 companies I will not name have tried to claim so far, they are crazy. That is my opinion. There is
Yeah.
no point in experiencing what you can see from Earth in space. Like, why would you go to space? What's the point?
I mean, I 100% agree with you, but at the same time, if you're there looking through a camera view, like we could get, we could game plan out all the different ones. Like if you have a periscope, what if it's a periscope? Okay, what if it's a digital periscope, like a camera on one end and then a screen, but you still put your eyes up to it and you hold the thing? Like, at what level are you satisfied with looking like that your eyes are seeing the thing that your eyes would see if you were looking through a clear sheet of material?
Let's
Either
do
way,
optical with no
yeah.
digital.
Yeah, I mean that's
artifacts.
entirely fair, and I think I would tend to agree with you there.
Yeah.
Hopefully, physics and manufacturing can advance to the point where that's possible.
We do not have screens that approach the resolution of pure photons hitting your retinas. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah, there you go. And even just things like color, like I mean, I know I'm always sort of bothered by images that present something like with super enhanced color, like we see like a photo of the like the various nebulas or something from Hubble Space Telescope, and it's all these amazing colors, and then you read the footnote and it's like, oh, by the way, the different colors correspond to different elements, and you're like, bah, like what would I even see with my eyes?
Nothing.
you
You
know,
wouldn't see anything.
or even just down to the like weird details, like what the white balance of the camera is and things like that. It's totally different, like you said, Das, to see it with your actual eyes. And speaking of, quick nitpick, is anyone else annoyed with the whole blue dunes on Mars story that's been going around? It's an infrared image. There's not blue dunes. Anyways.
I mean, I'm not screaming about it or anything, Jack, but
yeah, okay. Maybe I had a little bit too much coffee. Observing the queue. Go for it.
No, that's the whole camera processing thing to make these amazing views is one of the things that's always been it's kind of like a pet peeve for me, because I got bit before I knew anything about cameras. Not that I know anything about cameras now, but before I knew about anything, I was looking at photos online of launch viewing opportunities for the Cape, right? And it's like, oh, where can I watch? I can watch from the port, I can watch from Titusville, I can watch from Playa Linda. And I'm seeing all these pictures, and there were these amazing pictures from Playa Linda, and they had telephoto compression in them. And I didn't know this. I didn't know this was a thing. So I got all packed up and I went all the way down there. And, oh, I'm going to see my first launch. Da, 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 da. And I go there and I'm like, that doesn't look anything like the picture. The rocket's tiny.
Please tell me that a stream of this exists on the internet somewhere.
No, because if it was a stream, then I would have cameras, telephone lenses, like that would be different. But just going there with the Mark I eyeballs, I couldn't see with my eyes what I thought I was going to see based on the photos on the internet. And I just didn't know. I almost felt like sort of bait and switch. Like I went there and I'm like, that's nowhere near what they said it was going to look like on the internet. And now I understand the telephoto compression and lenses and zoom. Like now I get it. But I literally chose that location because I thought I was going to see that with my eyes. And I went there, and even though it was amazing to see the launch, I felt a little bit disappointed that I couldn't see what this camera was depicting. You know what I mean? So
yeah, no, I would
don't
completely
know.
agree. It's sort of a pet peeve of mine as well, and it's a double-edged sword too. Like on the one hand, are you getting people that otherwise wouldn't be excited? That's meaningful. But then, are you discouraging them? Hopefully not. When they find out that the thing that they're looking at is not something that they would ever actually see with their, like you say, Mark I eyeball.
Mark I eyeballs. That's exactly right. It's just something that caught me unaware because I didn't understand, and I made this decision to travel down there to see it, and then I didn't see what the camera could show, and I'm like, really? Come on.
Oh
It's
man,
still cool.
I was really hoping you had streamed this on Twitch or something. I could go back and watch like Baby DOS, be like, "What the heck, man!" Like rage cage about it. That would be really great.
So
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my pro tip for doing launches: if you are doing a launch for your first time, bring binoculars. That's the pro tip I have, because that's what I did and it worked well.
Yeah, and you don't even have
Really?
to have any kind of crazy fancy binocular, like literally any kind of magnification do wonders for what you're able to see. And probably, I've seen a lot of people actually out of Boca Chica too with monoculars, like from like a spotting scope from a rifle or what have you. It's like really any kind of magnification is going to do you well, because even the launch sites where you can get super close, Boca Chica is like 5 miles from Isla Blanca Park, but it's still far for the human eyeball, even for large vehicles.
And my
Yeah.
second pro tip, Jack, is do not, and this is the biggest one actually. This is like my #1 pro tip for doing a launch.
I hope it's what I
Do
think.
not, whatever you do not travel thousands of miles and spend hundreds of dollars to watch a launch through your cell phone screen. Please
Yeah.
do not do it.
Thank
Do
you.
not do it. I will scream if I see it. Do not go through all that effort to see your phone through the worst video that anybody has ever seen. Like just watch the webcast. It will be better. other than the audio. I mean, the audio will be great, but do not watch a launch through your cell phone screen. Every launch I go to, you see hundreds of people doing it. Do not be the one that makes that mistake, please.
Yeah. That's a big thing. Like, you tell people that are watching a launch for the first time, and it's like, put away the camera, put away the cell phone, just put it away, and just watch the launch. You know what I mean? Don't worry about
Yep.
capturing it, or just take a selfie or something like that. I don't know, but
There are entire teams of people whose job it is to capture the launch for you. We've got that covered. You just watch the launch.
it's true. Like, enjoy the experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can't agree more. And you know, be here now. That's what I'll say. I'll say be here now.
Also, stay off the cellular networks because we're using them.
Yeah,
Also,
all for us. Look at that. We got a frost ring. Looks like
Oh,
in the
yeah.
methane tank zone. Look
Yeah.
at that.
Yep.
A little bit of
That's certainly
condensation,
weird.
but now it's a clear frost ring.
Yeah.
And I will add one more thing to my rant. A DSLR is much better because you are still doing the launch through an optical viewfinder, not through a digital screen.
Not
But
unless you
even
have.
then,
Not if you have a
are
mirrorless
focusing
camera.
on, yeah, well, mirrorless cameras are dumb, so you won't have that, right? I'm just kidding. I'm sorry, Jack.
Oh man, I just went all mirrorless. I hate.
I'm just kidding. No, actually, mirrorless cameras are good for this one problem, which is that you cannot watch a launch with your own eyes through them. But
Yeah,
if you're
makes
using
sense.
like a DSLR with a optical viewfinder, even then, your mind, and trust me, I noticed because I shot a ton of launches before, your mind starts thinking about the photos and not the experience of the launch. So
Yes.
if it is your first launch, my strongest recommendation is not to take photos. Once you've seen several launches, then by all means, have fun taking photos. But for your first launch, I highly recommend, as hard as it is, just enjoying the experience because it is amazing. So my recommendation, long story short, is for your first launch, watch it through binoculars.
Yeah, I can't agree more to that. And I like this rant for a lot of reasons. Partially because it's not me ranting for once. But no, really, it's a really, really good thing to say and to let people know in case they haven't seen a launch yet and they're going to experience their first one. I can't tell you how many times I've shot something like a rocket launch, and because I was in the moment sort of working and doing the job of taking photos, I didn't really experience it firsthand, or I would go back and look at the photos while editing them and be like, oh my God, there was a giant green flash, like cloud of green, how did I miss that? But it's because you're, in the moment focusing on multiple different things like exposure and framing and all of that, and not necessarily experiencing it with your own eyes. And definitely can't agree more there, Michael. Really quickly, $50 from Osimo 3089. Thank you so much, Osimo. Great streams as always. Thanks for doing this, Spaceflight team. Well, thank you, buddy. $50
Roblox,
is
right?
yeah, right. That's the Roblox guy. Thank you so much for the support. It's repeated support. It's a large amount of support, and we really, really, really appreciate it. Can't say that enough. Observing the queue. Thanks for the 100 rubles. They say, hey Das, there's a robotic camera Lego set 9731, and a couple more, fresh from the year 2000. Okay, that's.
I'm looking it up right now.
If anybody needs a Christmas present for Das, I think that's probably a great one. If we're thinking about Christmas early here. Scott Summers, thanks.
It actually exists.
Wait. Okay, somebody link it. I want to see it.
Lego Vision Command, nice.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
That's a Mindstorms thing. That's a Mindstorms thing.
Oh man, I had Mindstorms. That was like super formative in my development as a nerd.
I taught summer camps. I taught kids how to do things with the Lego Mindstorms long ago and far away. We didn't have the robotic camera kit, but we had the little, drag and drop programming sort of stuff and all that sort of thing. Mindstorms became something else, didn't it? It's called
Is it
something
NXT? Is that in my brain somewhere?
I don't know. I just know last
But
time I
yes,
looked
I
it
think
up,
you're
it was
right.
like an old school one, yeah.
Man, I
It's
wish
a
I could say I did something smart with my Mindstorms kit. I mostly made centrifuges and then tried to make it so that they didn't spin themselves apart, and then weaken apart and then watch it spin itself apart. I don't know what that says about me as a Lego builder, but maybe it's just that I like chaos. Scott Summers, thank you for the £5. They say, is there a heat shield side of view? I guess we can kind of see the heat shield side from the beach view, but not right now, I don't think. That's more like that side of the vehicle is sort of pointing towards the water. I'm pretty sure that's all wildlife preserve out there. I'm not positive, though. Lily C. with the Thomas Fan Club. Thank you for that. Gilbert Anderson, thank you for the $10. They say, been loving your stream since SN6. Redundancy is why SH Super Heavy should have had 3 extra Raptors to ensure their safe return. Yeah, I mean, more Raptors is more better, just like more rockets is more better.
Super Heavy will not have a shortage of Raptors. I don't think engine redundancy is a concern for Super Heavy.
Yeah, good point. Josh Palmer, thanks for the 499. They say, let's hear your odds. SN15 sixth landing. I'm going to say 50-50. Anybody else want to chime in?
I'll take 51-49 in favor of landing.
Okay, nice.
52-48.
$1, Bob.
$1, Bob.
JR, thank you for the $2. They say transparent aluminum. I'm guessing that's back to the Windows discussion we had. Not 95, talking like optical windows. Joe, dad jokes. I got him. Joe, thank you for the $5. Micah Weissman, thank you for the $4.99. They're asking about material for the windows. Yeah, again with the transparent aluminum. That's something that's been thrown around. I don't know that a sheet of it
Elon
has
has
even been made
mentioned
ever.
transparent aluminum as being a thing, so
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen like a tech demo of that. Is it like a theoretical thing or something that's actually done but needs to be made into a state where it can be manufactured at scale? Or, is it like a carbon nanotube situation where we can make carbon nanotubes but we can't mass produce them or something like that? Not sure, but either way, holy cow, we have a $100 super chat from Robert Hobson. Good old Bob Hobb. Thank you, Bob Hobb. $100. Bob Hobb, you're I don't even know. Where do you get this money from, Bob? Thank you so much for the insane and consistent insanity in the support. And they say Michael rant is best rant. You know what? I'm inclined to agree because Michael is a very analytical and data-driven person, and so you know the rant's going to be good. Dan J, thank you for the $5 Australian. They say launch pro tip. I have a podcast on in the background while I wait for launch. Post box roulette is a good one. All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, you can always listen to our streams as a podcast, just have it playing in the background, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Harry Young, thank you for the €5. Another one of those consistent donators. Thanks, Harry. So when was the last time you all heeded your advice regarding, but not through cameras? I'll tell you, very recently, I watched SN11 with my own eyeballs and did not operate cameras at all. I think at one point I tilted my cameras up in a vain, optimistic, futile attempt in hopes of catching anything, but no, I just sort of watched the fog and was sad.
Jack,
much like the launch of Insight.
The only thing worse than watching it through your camera lens is watching it through fog. So I don't know that's stepping up here.
Concur.
At least you can see it through the camera,
But still, technically answers the question. Oh man, stupid fog. God, that explosion would have been so cool. Okay, anyways. Trey Namey, thank you for the $25. They say, thanks as always. Jack, how's the NAS? Oh man, I still don't have a network attached storage. I really need one.
I was so confused. I thought they were talking about a naval air station. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything we're talking about?
Oh, it's Naval Air Station Jack. There's a whole bunch of T-38s there, a whole bunch of F-5s. I guess they would be F-5s. Anyways.
Any MiG-28s?
Yeah, there you go. Oh my god. I need to go shooting jets again. It's been too long. Let's see. Also, my daughter would be in Florida on 4/22. How do you recommend she watch the crew launch? Any of you guys want to chime in on how to best watch Crew 2?
I'm assuming Playa Linda won't be open, so Maxborough Bridge would be my spot as far as a public spot to go to.
Yeah, it's probably too early for Playa Linda.
Yeah.
Huh?
Playa Linda will be closed for all crew launches, I think. At least that's what Ben Cooper.
I keep hearing that too, but then it's like we haven't
said.
had a launch that's at a good time. Like, because Demo 2
I think
was
it's
they
for
still had
security
COVID.
reasons, I think.
But yeah.
But the one thing I will say is that Crew 2 is launching in the morning, just before sunrise. So as the rocket ascends, it's going to fly into daylight, and you'll get a really cool effect from the ground. So even if you cannot get super close to Crew 2, as the rocket gets higher, there could be some really cool viewing effects. So I would highly recommend trying to see that.
Awesome. Thank you for the advice there. Let's see. A couple more super chats. We can get back to viewer questions. Gary, thank you for the $20. Very awesome of you, Gary. Sasha, thank you for the 200 rubles. They say they're asking about astronauts being interchangeable which vehicle they ride. Can crew on train on Dragonfly on the Skyliner, or are they fixed? How much additional training needed?
That's a great question. So, I mean, yes, technically you can only fly on vehicles that you have been trained to fly on. However, astronauts get trained to fly on all vehicles. So if you're training for an International Space Station mission, you will be trained on Dragon, Starliner, and Soyuz. Although I don't know if they're actually training all astronauts on Starliner yet, but definitely Dragon and Soyuz. So you're when you're not assigned to an actual launch rotation yet, but you're getting ready to go to the ISS, you receive training on all of them. So so to that degree, they are actually interchangeable. They can fly on several different vehicles.
The number one thing I would want to do in that training regime is the poke stick training day. Here's how you use the poke
For
stick.
Soyuz.
You poke things with it. Yeah, for Soyuz. I love it so much. It's the best thing. High technology controlled with a stick. Musical Wolves, thank you for the $5. Asking about Mrs. Tree and Miss Chief getting reused to send people to the sea platform. I'm not sure what the future of those will be. All I know is they've gone home, right? To sort of the place where
Yeah.
they were built.
It would be a great return to the SpaceX fleet if they became part of the Starship support fleet. But I think that is not. I think it's too early to know if that's actually in the plans or not.
Awesome. Well, hopefully we see them back in the rotation at some point. Sad to see them go. And the, all this talk of catching a booster with a launch tower just makes me constantly think of, hey, but catching the fairings with a boat in an ocean didn't seem to work. Obviously, much different problem, but maybe catching isn't always the right option, even though it's like a nice one at first. And then 2 more super chats. One from Jefta. Thank you for the Lego funding, the shuttle for the, oh my God, funding for the Lego shuttle. I can talk. Very awesome of you. I don't know. We'll have to divvy that up, and each of us will get a little parcel of it and put it towards a Lego kit. I don't know. But thank you for that. And holy cow. Do you guys see this next super chat?
I do.
It's a
$400.
number that's bigger than I can count on my fingers by quite a bit more. Quite a bit.
It's a $400 super chat. I need to ask this person in our
Whoa.
Discord. Is that Corporal Daywalker? Capital Daywalker?
I believe that's
CPL.
Oh, what's
They
that?
walk.
Look at that.
Really
look at
quick,
Yeah.
we should look at our screens.
Yeah, we just had a sudden venting in a downward direction from
Huh.
the GSE equipment, it looks like.
Maybe a
that.
hose popped off or
Possibly
something?
The thrust section. I wonder if they were hitting it with the rams when that happened.
Uh-oh.
Does it look like those rams are extended right now? Sorry,
I don't think we can tell if the rams are extended or not, but
because that structure doesn't move.
it could have been they were hitting it with the rams and something failed. It could also be a test of the quick disconnect umbilicals, and that's entirely expected. It could be a planned vent. I don't know. There are many options, but we have observed a lot of venting from the aft section of the vehicle. That much we can say.
We've had an
Yeah.
observation.
No.
And it was sudden as well. I mean, it was very much sudden and in a downward direction, not coming out of the side of Starship, which we see all the time, right? Those normal vents, but this was like suddenly pressure being released in a downwards direction. So
It does sort of look like it might be coming from a pipe on the superstructure there. Like, it's sort of jetting downwards at times. I don't know.
A little bit of venting from the methane tank just there, but it wasn't sustained.
yeah.
I'm hesitant to say that anything is wrong with the vehicle at this point, but definitely something interesting going on.
No,
Look at
like
that.
emergency depress vent or anything like that.
No, exactly.
Looks like it's coming from the base, doesn't it? Not the aft section. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming from the stand itself, but
Yeah, it looks
hard
like
to
it's,
tell.
yeah, I agree with that. It looks like it's coming from some piping going up to Starship, not coming like out of the base itself. Wow.
There's
Wow.
a depress vent.
Look at that.
Wow. That is huge.
And
That
that's
looks like
both depress
an
vents
abort.
sustained now.
Yeah.
So
That
that
is a-
increases the odds that venting at the bottom was not planned.
Yeah, that is a big high pressure depressurization vent. You can see the velocity, the force that's coming out of the side of SN15 right there, and they
You go full
usually do
screen on
that.
the beach, so we can see
Let's
how far
see
it
the whole
goes.
thing. Yeah, let's see here.
It's not even in the frame. Wow. Look
Yeah,
at
That
that.
is a big vent.
I think it's the biggest vent we've seen. I don't know if that's atmospheric conditions or pressure or what, but wow.
Yeah.
And then another one. Wow.
Look at that.
That's wild. Never a dull
No,
day in Boca Chica.
Maybe Mary can hear that. Let's see here real quick. We're gonna listen in on the microphone on that camera she's got.
A methane vent is, or methane tank vent, obviously it's not methane, but methane tank vent is also still going.
Yep.
We would expect the frost not to go away this time because when you drop the pressure inside the tanks, it actually makes it colder. So the frost will stick around until they're fully depressurized and the nitrogen actually vents out.
Yeah, think of when you use a can of canned air and to like clean out your computer keyboard or whatever. Can gets cold as you exhaust the whatever is in it.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's
really
a
quick,
methane vent there.
that was a big one. Really quick, thank you for Corporal Daywalker for the 400 bucks on the super chat. That is an insane amount of money. Obviously, we're going to keep doing what we do and keep upping our game. So thank you for that. And maybe I won't shave my beard until they land one and not explode. Maybe that'd be a fun thing to do. You know, with a super chat like that, I kind of feel like I have to do it. But seriously, thank you, Corporal Daywalker. Thank you for the membership and for the insane amount of support related to the beard. But back to this, I am super curious what's going on with SN15 right now. It's curious to me that cascading of vapor from the stand area has not stopped.
Yeah.
It definitely looked, the one thing is it is hard to tell whether it's coming from the vehicle or from the ground equipment, but either way, based on the depressed venting that's coming afterwards, and the fact that we haven't seen anything like that on previous cryo tests, would suggest that it was not planned. That has no bearing on how major of a problem it is, if a problem at all. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
I mean, that venting is so intense. I wonder if maybe it's just a really hot day out today, or if if the pressure's being exerted on the vehicle or on the tanks is significant at this point. So many questions.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they seem to be not duty cycling it really, but they're turning that vent on and off and on and off.
Yeah. They'll be cycling it to maintain some certain pressure that they want. Well, I believe this is a relevant time to bring in a question here asking what does a cryo test do? Is it to check for leaks? Pretty much, and it's basically to ensure that all of your systems are tight, all your tanks that are being tested for the first time don't have any leaks or anything like that, and that the structure can maintain the loads of having flight pressures inside them. They pressurize the tanks too. On these tests where they don't have an engine installed, they actually have those hydraulic rams underneath pushing against the bottom of the vehicle with the same force as engine thrust would be, so you can tell that the structure supports those loads as well. And doing all of that under cryogenic or very, very cold conditions, so that's where the name comes from. And it's possible that what we just saw is them finding a potential problem under those conditions, or it's possible that something else is going on. Because we haven't really seen this before, so we're going to keep an eye on it and see what exactly just happened here.
Yeah. I mean, that venting continues to happen down at the bottom, but it doesn't really look like it's coming from Starship. It does look like it's coming from down lower.
Yeah, it looks like it's coming from the stand. For I don't want to say for sure because I've said things on this stream and then shortly thereafter things have exploded. So
Yeah.
But yeah,
If that was methane.
Oh God, I'd way prefer North Korean dollars over that.
What? You can't just say you would much prefer North Korean dollars.
I mean, I prefer the meme about me saying that. But anyways, beggars can't be choosers.
It's possible they're just clearing the lines at the end of the test. Seems weird to do that before they do tank. I'm not sure, but
haven't seen a lot of the ice start to melt yet, though. It's still a pretty solid bit of ice. You know what's really interesting here? Look at the fact that there's no ice on the thermal tiles.
Yeah.
I would love to see. That's a good point.
Yeah. There's no ice.
Well, I guess they're not meant to transfer heat very well, right?
Or cold. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess they're supposed to be insulators. That's kind of their purpose.
Yeah. God, those vents. I mean, remember, Starship itself is 50 meters tall. The stand is somewhere around 10 meters tall. So lay Starship on its side, in those vents coming out the side, that's 50 meters of vent coming out the side. Those are massive plumes coming out of those valves.
Okay, but what's that in
That
American
one's
football
smaller.
fields, Dawes?
What's that in American football fields? About half.
Nice.
What's that in ears of corn?
Ears of corn, 42.
How many whales?
Whales? Ask Tori. I have answers for all questions. It really does. I mean, it's like off and on and off. It's almost like they're trying to maintain a pressure here, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's got to be some pressure that they need to maintain. Well, obviously, okay, I take that back because it can stand empty on its own.
Yeah.
The bottom tank, if there's stuff in the upper tank, the bottom tank will need to be pressurized to a certain amount to maintain kind of withstand that extra weight.
Right.
But they're also doing it on the top tank, so.
The frost is still climbing rapidly on the methane tank. I have been rewinding, so I think this might be normal.
Well, remember, they're also depressing it, so the frost will grow from that.
Well, it doesn't seem like it's not like a constant depress. It sort of seems more like pressure maintenance venting or whatever you want to call it, like steady state. I'm sort of wondering, theory, you know, here's a theory. If they disconnected the quick disconnect, you know, maybe they're trying to also verify the pressure integrity of whatever valve right there on the vehicle itself, and so they would want to disconnect the quick disconnect, and that's where that vapor that we're seeing could potentially be coming from. It's sort of like, you know, you don't want to just close a valve and have the quick disconnect still attached. Maybe that's part of this test is having that. I mean, it certainly looks like a normal cryo proof where they fill it up, it gets frosty, and then they do some venting for a bit while they make sure it can hold pressure, just with the added component of a lot of vapor coming from the stand.
Yeah.
Probably file it in the probably normal category.
Yeah, I'm skeptical, but I'm not. You're right. It could be not unexpected.
I know I'm watching that side camera a lot. I'm going to see what a couple of these vents look like from these angles. From the village angle, so near where Mary is and then where the village robots are, those plumes come kind of straight at you. So it just looks like a big cloud appearing. There's one right there. In line. It's hard to see how big the plumes are from this angle, so that's why I've been spending so much time on those side angles there. Go ahead, Thomas. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, so we're going to keep an eye on this, but I think in the meantime we can go back to just doing questions and things. So I'll try and pull some out. Colton asking what are the differences between SN15 and SN8 through 11. So we know of a couple things. Elon has said that there's something like hundreds of changes that they've implemented to SN15. The ones we know of are a new thrust puck design, which is the part at the bottom of the vehicle that all the engines mount to. They have changed a little bit about the Raptor themselves. They've modified Raptor's design for improved reliability, among other things. So that's some changes that will be visible on SN15. You can see they're still adding more and more heat shield tiles, which they have been doing through all of these starships. Trying to think if there's any others we know of for sure. Am I missing any of the known changes for SN15?
There's one Elon tweet that I always forget.
Hundreds of changes.
I need to go find it. But
yeah, I know that, but I'm trying to think if there's any specific ones that we know of.
There's an Elon tweet that's something along the lines of like the welds and oh gosh, hang on, I'm gonna go looking for it. Come to me later.
Okay, Jack will go research if we had no more specifics than that. But those are some of the ones we know of. A lot of them will likely be, you know, very minor things that we would never notice just observing. But basically, a bunch of incremental changes based on what they learned from those previous vehicles. So. I'm going to keep going through some questions here. Here is a good one. Do you think that there will be abort modes similar to shuttle, like transatlantic or RTLS aborts? So, the problem is, if the abort is triggered because of some like major anomaly with super heavy during a launch, for example, Raptor engines take a couple seconds to spool up. They're not the same as an abort motor that can start within milliseconds. So Starship doesn't really have the ability to abort from a malfunctioning booster that way. If it's a more minor issue though, and Super Heavy simply shuts down its engines and performs basically an early stage separation, in that scenario I could see Starship being able to perform some sort of contingency abort. Whether I don't know what sort of launch sites or landing sites could support a Starship abort. At certain points, there should be some return to launch site or RTLS capability to basically do a boost back burn and fly back to the launch site, but that would only be available through the early portions of flight before it gets too far downrange. After that, it's possible that the safest thing would be to abort to a low orbit, or like an abort once around kind of deal. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. I don't know if there'd be a gap between Starship's able to do a boost back burn and perform an RTLS landing, and then, once it's far enough downrange that it can't do that, is it close enough to orbit that it can do that instead, or does there need to be an interim like transit and landing abort, which would be more difficult because then you need landing sites that are able to support that, which is more straightforward when you're talking about the space shuttle because you just need something with a runway. Starship would need some sort of like landing pad, which is not as common. Don't know. That's a very good question. It would be interesting to see how big the gap between an RTLS capability and an abort to orbit or abort once around capability is, and if that would be considered like a black zone, I guess. That would be very interesting to hear about.
No black zones, please, no
Right,
black
yeah.
zones. That just seems like a no-brainer. No black zones. Dragon, to my knowledge, does not have any black zones.
Dragon does not have any black zones. Starliner does not have any black zones. Orion does not have any black zones.
Yeah, that's just the way it should be. So it would make sense to me if there are like a TAL abort for Starship and stuff like that. It would just be, if something underperforms, a Raptor underperforms, or if there's an issue that's encountered, a big bird hits the windshield. I don't know. Just it turns into a point-to-point flight instead of an orbital flight. No big deal. You just land and everything's fine. I mean, that's the way it would be if it's airliner-like operations, right? Right, Das?
Right.
The entire
Until it can
launch
glide,
of the
DOS
black
does
zone.
not say it's airliner-like operations.
Fair.
But I would honestly be surprised if there's any point in flight where it can neither return to the launch site or reach orbit because of all the delta V that a Starship has. Oh, okay. Actually, you know what? Now that I think about this, Starship can almost, with its recovery hardware stuff, can almost get to orbit on its own. So clearly, after just a couple minutes in the flight, it can abort the rest of the way to orbit if it needs to.
But
And
with no
then
payload,
that
though.
early in the flight, what?
That's with the no payload thing. So assuming you had
Right,
any
but
sort of usable
still.
payload, you couldn't do that.
Well, right. So my point is, with some payload, if you're early enough in flight where you still can't reach orbit, that means you're still pretty close to the launch site. So an RTLS would probably be feasible. And then once you're far enough in flight that an RTLS isn't feasible, you have to be a fairly large way towards orbit. I would imagine that there's actually not a gap between RTLS mode and abort to orbit mode for a Starship launch.
Really good question either way. I feel sad that we don't have Chris B on to reminisce about the first shuttle flight and ejections and Bob and John and just all of this. This is a perfect Chris.
Speaking of which, did you guys talk about that at all today yet, given what today is?
A little bit, but go for it.
I mean, it's just worth mentioning that today is the 40th anniversary of the first ever flight of the space shuttle STS-1 with John Young and Bud Crippen, which of course was a test flight like no others, putting 2 crew on a very unproven vehicle, which we luckily don't have to do anymore. But that was 40 years ago today, which of course started a huge era of, first of all, the world's first reusable spacecraft, and then everything that the shuttle accomplished and taught us about how to make even better reusable spacecraft like the one we're looking at right now. So worth mentioning that. Also the 60th anniversary of the first human in space, Yuri Gagarin, on Vostok 1. So
it does look like the frost is receding now on the liquid oxygen tank, and it is holding on the methane tank. So they might have finished the loading, and from what I can tell, it appears, I don't think there was an anomaly at all. I think it's been going to plan based on the frost continuing to rise after they had that venting from the bottom. So in my opinion, from what I can tell with no inside information or official data, I think so far that has gone well, and they now might be detanking, but again, I'm just going off of what I can see.
Yeah, I would be inclined to agree with that statement.
Got a super chat here. Nathan asking, is the thrust simulator being applied right now? It's hard. We can't tell for sure from our camera views because it's kind of up into the thrust skirt of Starship, so you can't really get a direct view of it. But generally speaking, I would be interesting to know if they actually move the thrust simulator at all during the test, or if it's just constantly applying whatever force they want from beginning to end. But at some point, they're going to be applying it during a cryo-proof test. We can't confirm whether or not they're doing it at this moment, however.
Oh, and I found that the Elon tweet that I thought was about SN15 details was actually about 8 and 9, or 9 and 10. He said many small improvements, but overall similar. Wiring is more robust, engines are more mature, nose cone is sealed better, which I wouldn't have expected a nose cone seal to be a thing, or even a thing that was like necessary to improve. It's sort of interesting to me. I wonder what exactly that means. But again, that was for 9 and 10, so I do think the only details that we have about SN15's changes are that there's hundreds of them. So presumably even more robust wiring and even more mature engines and perhaps even better sealed nose cone. But would love some more color from Elon on that on Twitter.
A super chat question here from James asking, why would you have transparent aluminum windows when you could just have multiple cameras behind shielding? Less risky for Starship integrity, surely. That is true. It would be less risky for structural integrity. Windows can cause a problem with that. However, there is a legitimate argument that windows are more important than just a screen. Now, obviously, we talked about a little bit earlier about just our personal preferences as to would much rather experience those things through glass, something transparent, versus going through a camera lens, because then you're viewing something that you also could have been seeing from the surface of Earth, because you're just recording it anyway. But there is also a very large psychological impact to being able to look out the window during a spacecraft. You have to remember that space travel is a very isolated and confined space that you're in for long periods of time, and the ability to kind of look outside and not be trapped in a windowless kind of cabin, even if there are screens showing you, oh, this is what's outside. Windows have a very important psychological impact in keeping a crew healthy and happy during those long duration missions. There are lots of windows on the International Space Station, including the big cupola module. By the way, really quick, looks like, oh wait, no, those are birds. Never mind. I thought we saw a drone flying to the pad. Those are birds. Ignore me. But windows are very important. That's why, I mean, Crew Dragon has windows, Starliner has windows. They're there not just for the, yeah, we want to let astronauts look outside. It's a legitimate health thing, and it helps keep the crew happier and help relieve stress and things that are all part of space travel. So it's not just about being cool or kind of being our preference. There really is solid arguments that it helps mission success and keep your crew healthier.
Yeah, I see a lot of people always asking about the trip to Mars in terms of questions about the radiation exposure or the questions about gravity, simulating gravity so that there's no muscle wasting. A lot of questions in terms of effects of the journey on crew, but I don't usually see questions about like mental health, which I think is going to be a fairly significant issue in terms of deep space flight for the crew. That you're going to have to keep everybody happy, mentally healthy, and mental health is a big deal. So if a component of that is the expense and complexity of a real window instead of a screen, then I mean it just makes plain sense. It's no different than having a good air filtration system or a good toilet for that matter, or good food. You want to keep people mentally healthy just like you want to keep them physically healthy as well. It can't be understated.
Got a question here from Oye Gaming asking, how can SpaceX test vacuum engines without the extended nozzles breaking? So this would apply to both Merlin and Raptor, of course. You can fire vacuum optimized engines at sea level. Normally, that's not a huge safety issue. Obviously, the performance will be very different. And occasionally, there are sort of structural risks with such the big nozzle that's kind of not supposed to operate in that conditions. But that's usually resolved simply by supporting the nozzle a little bit on the test stand. And that kind of mitigates that. And then what you'll do is you'll take the data from those tests and say, okay, this is, even though this engine is not operating in the conditions it would be, we can calculate what its performance should be under these sea level conditions. And as long as they match that, we know the engine's operating nominally, even though it's not giving the same thrust or efficiency that it would in vacuum. So between some nozzle supports and factoring that into your data review, you can still accurately test a vacuum engine at sea level. A question here from Jeremy: will BN2 fly higher than 150 meters? Do we know, will BN2, let's start with will BN2 fly? Because we know BN1 has already been scrapped as out of a manufacturing pathfinder versus an actual test article. What do we know about current status of BN2? It hasn't even been stacked yet, right?
Correct.
So it's so early, I don't know if I want to speculate as to what BN2 will or will not do.
Yeah,
I think
good
if they're
call.
going to fly a super heavy booster on its own, I'm expecting something on the order of a 150 meter hop test. It could be like 200 meters or something, but a very low altitude hop test. I think once they're ready to go higher, it's going to be just part of an orbital launch attempt. That's my personal speculation, though.
Yeah, I'd be inclined to agree. It won't fly to higher than 150 meters unless something bad happens. That might be also a good.
There's also that. Will it intentionally fly higher than 150 meters?
Yeah, there you go. That's refine the question a little bit.
Douglas Sutherland with a super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Also, Vinny asking, do you think they are testing its puffing ability for a 420 launch? I'm gonna offer no comment on that, but we appreciate your support. Here's a good question from Marcus. Is the Starship heat shield based on Pika X? I don't believe so. So Pika X is a proprietary version of a heat shield. NASA designed the original sort of Pika design, and SpaceX refined it a bit to make Pika X, and that's the heat shield used on Dragon. I believe that is substantially different than the ceramic silica heat shield tiles, which are on Starship, which are actually a little more similar to those used on the space shuttle. Different, but more similar in that sense than comparing it to Pika X or something like that. Here's a question from Steven with the super chat. Will we have to wait till SN20 for the thinner metal, or was SN15 built with 3mm sheets? What thickness is SN15? I don't actually know off the top of my head.
I don't think that they've taken that down to the smaller size yet.
Yeah, I
Right,
think it's
so
4 millimeters.
Still 4 millimeters?
Yeah.
Still
Yeah,
4
yeah.
millimeters. Gotcha. Alright, we've got a trademark speculation question here, asking, when can we expect a full Starship and Super Heavy system test flight realistically? I'd say we can go around the horn here. Anyone want to jump on this first? First full stack test flight?
December.
Of what year?
This year.
I don't know. I don't know that you can come up with anything realistically. All we can do is guess because there hasn't even been a booster rolled out to the pad yet.
Yeah,
You know what I
good point.
mean?
Yep.
Like I don't know. I hate to be such a party pooper with that, but we haven't even seen one rolled out. How can we possibly give a realistic guess? Now, if you just want a completely wild and crazy guess, I could give you one of those. But a realistic guess without having some of that data under our belt, I don't know. You know? Is that cop-out answer?
No, I think that's fair, because I think that's completely fair. With the very limited knowledge that we do have and what we've seen so far, I will put a low confidence but somewhat realistic guess of Q4 2021. So similar to Jack's answer. That would be my speculation. Michael, do you have any differing thoughts?
Realistically, I mean, the
Yes.
biggest question I have is the launch licensing and the
Mhm.
environmental permits to approve this type of launch activity. That was one of the risks that NASA stated in SpaceX's request to launch the Tropics mission, which SpaceX did not win. They lost that to Astra. So I'm not sure from a regulatory standpoint when SpaceX is going to get all the approvals, but I think maybe a late portion of this year is possible.
So there we go. Sounds like 3 of the 4 of us are feeling the end of this year. No idea how accurate that is, though, so we'll see. But appreciate the question there. Digifix with a super chat saying #WhenShave. I believe that's directed at Jack. Says, thanks for the coverage, you rock. Appreciate the support there.
I mean, I'm astonished at the amount that people care about the beard. I swear I've had a beard and stuff before. Or maybe I haven't. I tend to be clean shaven, but wow, people really latched onto the beard, and I can't say I'm complaining.
Jack, the last time I saw you in person, you were clean shaven, so.
I mean, I swear I've done like a weekly update or something with a beard, but maybe I forget, or maybe we just have a bunch of new members between now and then. But
Maybe.
either way, it seems like I'm not going to shave until they land one of these and it doesn't explode. Thank you again to Corporal Daywalker there for the super huge super chat.
I'm going to keep reading through some questions here. Jake asking, do we have an idea of the potential down mass capability of Starship? So we've talked a lot about up mass. The SpaceX, I believe, still officially saying 100 plus tons. Still not refined on a more specific number than that. Is there any speculation or reason to think that the down mass might be less, or if it would be pretty much the same, 100 tons ish? I mean, if you're talking about just launching payloads to the moon or Mars, those are payloads that Starship's going to have to land with to deliver them. So I would imagine that down mass, that landing payload capacity is the same as the up mass.
But doing a flip and burn with a huge amount of mass at the tip of the vehicle, I wonder if that's even possible or what the limits on that might be.
Technically, if you put a bunch of mass in the nose cone, that moves the center of mass farther from the engines, and thus when you gimbal the engines to do the flip and burn, you get more torque, so it's actually easier.
It's like it's easier to balance a broom on your fingertip than a pencil or something.
Is it?
No? Yeah, I mean, I can balance a broom on my fingertip no problem because all the weight is at the end of the broom. And it's a much longer lever arm or whatever. But a pencil is just a tiny little thing with uniform mass distribution. I don't know if that's real or not. I'm not. You're the person that goes to Embry Riddle, but this is me, my roadside rocket science here coming through.
No,
yes.
Yeah, I think you're onto it, and I think So I think payload up top will actually, in theory, make the flip and burn easier.
As long as it can structurally handle whatever loads and stresses that results in.
And then, but the concern will then be, okay, now once you're kind of in the vertical orientation, the vehicle simply weighs more, so you need a little more thrust and a little more fuel to make the landing happen, but that's within fuel margins anyway, so. Yeah, I would imagine the down mass capability just matches the up mass capability, is to answer the main question.
It looks like that frost is continuing to go down, so I think it's fair to say that they have likely completed the cryo-proof and are now detanking. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. It usually takes quite a bit of time for a cryo-proof test, but we'll know for sure if testing is over when they reopen the road, or reopen the pad. If they reopen the pad and they also reopen the road, then we know that they are done testing. If the road stays closed, that's a sign that there could still be more testing. I'm not sure if we're going to stay live all the way until that happens, but we'll figure out what we're going to do here. But it does look like that they have, from what we can tell, completed today's test.
Why not stay live? Party stream, party stream. Here's a question kind of on the fun side. Kyle Trick asking, Star Trek, Star Wars, or Battlestar Galactica? I'm going to say neither. I'm going to say Cowboy Bebop all the way. That is my vision of the universe. It's so real. Anyways, what do you guys think? Do you want to weigh in on this controversy?
Controversy. Thomas, what do you think?
Oh god, don't put me on the spot.
Yeah.
I've never seen any of Battlestar Galactica, but I've seen a fair amount of the other two, so I'll just lean towards the other two and let the internet hate me for it.
Oh man. Thomas, I don't know if we can be friends anymore. Do you watch shows? Like ever?
I just said I watch Star Trek and Star Wars. Were you not listening?
A lot of people are in chat are saying Stargate, which, you know, I've watched Stargate. It's a good one. A lot of people saying The Expanse or Firefly. Everyone has their favorite sci-fi property, which is good. We don't have to be tribalist about it, but like what you like. I like Cowboy Bebop. Oh, also Red Dwarf. Someone just said Red Dwarf. Very much agree on the Red Dwarf. It's just I tend to like the more real ones, you know, where things are kind of cruddy and not necessarily altruistic and nice and neat and or just completely fantastical. I kind of, you know, I like the space and sci-fi where it's like, hey, if we're gonna go somewhere, we're limited by the speed of light and it's gonna take a while or stuff like that. I don't know. That's my personal preference. I don't know. Das, what do you think? Michael, what do you think? Or do you want to just punt that one and we'll move on?
If I had to choose from those three, I would choose Battlestar Galactica, but the remake Battlestar Galactica. Like, I don't know,
Nice.
there's something about the flight scenes and the space combat scenes in that just feel really visceral, and flying around and seeing Raptors flip around and that sort of stuff as they're, you know what I mean? Like Vipers
Yeah.
and Raptors and the way they maneuver and the way they land and sort of crash down on the mag and skid in. Like, in terms of space combat, I don't think that anything really beats Battlestar Galactica there. I don't know. Just in terms of the way that those spaceships fly, and they don't fly like planes, they fly like I would expect a spaceship to fly. Like Star Trek and Star Wars is a little bit more drama. I mean, Star Wars is like a, you know, movie sort of spectacle thing, and then Star Trek is the long series with all the different little things that happen. And my problem with Star Trek is nothing ever works on that silly spaceship. Good grief. Half their, like 90% of the problems on the Enterprise are because something doesn't work all the time. It just doesn't work. Like, if the Enterprise would just work, they wouldn't have a show. So, anyways, y'all can come after me for that one. But if I had to choose from those three, I'm a big fan of Battlestar Galactica. Plus, we're looking at starships. I mean, we got the Adama maneuver, we got Battlestar Galactica.
Perfect.
I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah, it just works.
I will say you can have fun if you're Star Trek, Star Wars, or Battlestar Galactica. I will have fun with my starship.
Your starship, like this one? Which one?
Yeah, I mean, reality is much more exciting than science fiction.
Yeah, you're not wrong. This is
That's
absolutely
correct.
wild and incredibly sci-fi to see and witness this stuff happen. So that's a valid answer if you ask me. We got asked A, B, or C. I said like R, and Michael said Q. Let's see what else we got here.
I can't get behind The Expanse. I'm sorry. I can't get behind The Expanse.
I've never watched it. Why? Explain briefly.
You're not missing much. Everybody's like, oh, it's so realistic, and all I can do when I watch The Expanse is just look at everything and how not realistic it is. Like, every time you come in for an approach, you're spewing your exhaust drive, like your drive exhaust all over the space station at close range. Good job.
Wow. Okay. Das is making some enemies here.
I can't get behind it. I can't get behind The Expanse. I'm sorry.
No, everyone has their cup of tea. You express yourself. Have strong opinions. I'm completely on board with that. Really quick, a couple of super chats came in. Jonas, thank you for the $2.99. They're asking if it was successful. We think so, but we don't know. Tech Brigade, thank you for the $5. They say I am older than Google. Nice. That's interesting. Thank you for the $5. Yeah. Douglas Sutherland. Oh God, am I older than Google? Oh God.
Yeah,
Douglas.
You're most definitely.
Google's not that old, for the record.
Yeah,
It's
God.
not that old.
I am not older than Google.
Wow. Okay, I don't want to do this anymore. Abort. Douglas Sutherland, thank you for the $1.99. James Tyrell, thank you for the $5 or €5. They say thanks for the response. It's a good reason. I'm not sure if it'll be the same between planets and being able to see the Earth, but I get it. Oh, that must have been about the Windows thing. Armin, thank you for the Icelandic kroner. I'm guessing talking about beards are godly. I mean, wow. The beard is a serious earner at this point. Stephen Benson, thank you for the $5 Canadian. Kevin Martin, thank you for the €10, saying, well, what weight will Starship be when it lands on Mars, given the gravity difference there? That's a question for they did the math. So somebody do the math, and I will parrot that out as if I know that it's accurate on stream. Blazin469, nice name. Thanks for the $5. Asking about orange truck. Is there an orange truck somewhere? No idea.
There's an orange lift down in the lower right-hand corner, but that's usually parked in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
When shave is when it lands and doesn't explode. I guess we're gonna make this a thing.
Really? Okay. Bold bet. Because if SN15 does not land for whatever reason, there's no SN16 even being stacked right now.
Yeah, well, I'll just have to deal. Maybe I'll braid it.
Wait, I'm
They
sorry, what
haven't.
was the bet?
It wasn't a bet. It was that Corporal Daywalker donated a $400 super chat and
Right.
said they think I should shave when they first land a Starship and don't blow it up. So I have soft committed to that.
Like live on the camera though.
Oh,
Like
so you're
it's
saying that
landed in the
unless
background and you're
SN15 is the one that
shaving.
does it, it might be a while. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Das, it would have to be a members only stream, or maybe I would do it on my own YouTube channel or something. And Starship Shave.
No.
Starship Shave stream.
No, as
Members-
soon as it lands, you step around in front of your own camera and you start shaving. Like right there in the
Wait,
field.
hold on. What if it pulls an SN10 and explodes like 8 minutes later?
Then you gotta
Then I-
stop shaving like
Then I
halfway
gotta glue
through.
the hair back to my face.
No, wherever you are, you just stop.
That would be hilarious. That would be really, really funny. The Heaven Man 88, thank you for the $4.99. Some differences of opinion about the Expanse. Lionel L, thank you for the $5, talking about the Expanse being the most realistic science fiction show as far as the science. Faux rage.
It just isn't. It's not even. I'm sorry. That
I
show.
love so often you stay neutral, and every now and then we get you to express an opinion, and I'm loving it. Shadow
Not
Vipers.
today, Jack. Not today.
Thank you for the $5 Canadian. They say, what do you think SN11? While it was foggy, visual data not important as a program diagnostics. Yeah, I think it's just a matter of they didn't need to see it. They launch rockets in the fog all the time. It's unfortunate for us viewers, but they wanted to get that thing sent. And, I think they need pretty specific weather in terms of recovery. I believe Tankzilla was at that time at the build site, ready to be rolled to the launch site. And if the weather later in the day had deteriorated significantly, then they wouldn't have been able to fly. Maybe they needed to fly early so they could have good enough weather to get Tankzilla to the launch site and get it partially recovered before the weather rolled in. And maybe that entailed flying as early as possible and flying in the fog, unfortunately. Will Cooper, thanks for the $25. They say, are there 28 Raptors the minimum number of engines to push a Starship to orbit? No. We think maybe around 20 based on an Elon tweet. And last up, also, thank you, Will Cooper, for the $25. Huge amount of money. Last up, Mad Scientist, thanks for the $5, asking how much damage our cameras took. Just lost a solar panel.
Yeah.
Not a big deal. And let's see, a recommendation for watching All Mankind, which for All Mankind looks good. I do like the whole alternate history kind of thing, so definitely going to have to check that out at some point when I've got some spare time. All right, super chats. That's enough for now. Thank you, everybody. I mean, I don't even know how long I was just doing that for. It felt like an eternity. So thank you for the support that enables us to continue to do stuff like this. Thomas, you want to run some questions?
I was gonna say I'd be happily take over and do some question queue now that you've cleared out our super chats. Let's see what we've got here. Oh, here is a question. I saw this earlier and then didn't answer right away because I had no idea how to answer, but now I think I re-understood the question. Asking, do you think Elon will use the proven door hardware from the shuttle on Starship? At first I thought we were talking about like enter and exit hatches, and I was like, is that something specific to shuttle? But now I think they might be talking about the payload bay door, which makes a lot more sense. However, I think the answer is still no, because if I'm just based on the renders of the Starship variant, which will have like a payload bay door to deploy satellites and things like that, it doesn't look that similar to the one on the shuttle. Instead, the shuttle one is kind of split in two. It opens up sideways. The SpaceX renders have all had just kind of like one hinge that opens it up in one dimension. And so just based on that, I'm going to guess that the door will look pretty different. Not that the science of making a hinge is super complex. I don't think there's anything to be too concerned about. If anything, it might just be a scaled up version of the Dragon nose cone by a lot. Yeah, so I don't think the payload bay is going to look too similar to the shuttle. Hoping that that was what you were asking about. There, Sam. A question here asking about a road closure that's happening tomorrow. If they still don't have any of the Raptor engines installed, what are your thoughts on what they might do tomorrow? If I had to guess, that was just a backup window if they didn't get to testing today, or if testing today reveals an issue and they have to retest. But I think if a cryogenic proof test is successful, a good sign of that will be that tomorrow's road closure will be closed, because they'll have to install engines and things like that, and that doesn't require the road being closed. So that would be my guess is that the road collision tomorrow will actually be closed if today's test was successful. And then they'll reschedule closures when they're ready for static fire testing. A Bo asking, saying I follow Starship pretty closely, but can I get a rundown of a cryo test? So a cryogenic proof test, which is the full name for a cryo test, is proving that the tanks and other structures on Starship can handle all of the loads that they need to at cryogenic or very, very cold temperatures. We're talking about the temperatures where, in this case, nitrogen is liquid, but also the same temperatures that liquid methane and liquid oxygen would be at for actual propellants when they're loading for fuel. So they pump in liquid nitrogen. They use nitrogen because it is inert, so if there is a leak or something like that, there's not a risk of actual ignition or explosion. It would just be cold nitrogen flowing everywhere. So they use nitrogen, but they chill it down to the same temperatures as the propellants would be, the methane and oxygen, and they pump them into the propellant tanks. Those tanks are also up.
Thomas, real quick, that's a big double depress, it looks
Yep.
like. Sorry.
Yeah, no, thank you for interrupting me. That is definitely, that could be that final depress vent.
Yeah, it could be. I saw that I couldn't see most of Starship anymore from the other angle, so that is the long, high-pressure double depress, it looks like. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and this time we're not seeing it, at least yet, be a bit quite as sporadic as when we saw the venting earlier. So the longer the venting goes on for, the more it looks like a depressed vent.
Yeah, you can also see, watch for it to start to lose pressure, so that it'll get a little bit less energetic as it vents like that. But that is definitely something we see when they're done with tests a lot of the time.
So as I was mentioning, these tanks are pressurized during this test, and what we're seeing now is actually the release of that pressure because we believe the testing is done. But so they test the tanks at the pressures and temperatures that they would expect during an actual launch. And in this particular scenario, since there are no engines installed on the vehicle yet, they are using something called a hydraulic ram or a thrust simulator, or there's a couple different names for it, to push up on the bottom of the vehicle and basically take the place of what the force of thrust from the engines would be, so they can also test that the vehicle withstands those loads from the bottom of the vehicle. So those are the kind of things that they are testing during a cryogenic test. As you see, they are actually depressing and venting out the nitrogen now. Obviously, nitrogen makes up the bulk of Earth's atmosphere, so no problem just venting that into the surrounding atmosphere. No safety risks or environmental risk or anything like that. And they're emptying out those tanks, and you'll see the frost that is formed on the outside due to the cold temperature start to subside once all of that nitrogen has been vented out and the pressure starts to equalize. So there is your cryo test rundown. I hope I answered your question there, bud. We've also got a queue of super chats here that I'll run through really quick. Made582 saying hashtag Santa Jack, another beard reference. Appreciate the support there. Blazin says Dune and hashtag when shave. Pimplex says Spaceballs or Galaxy Quest. Here's another one. I've only seen Spaceballs. I haven't seen Galaxy Quest. What's Galaxy Quest?
What? You haven't seen?
How
you
have you
haven't
not
seen
seen
Galaxy Quest?
Oh my gosh.
Beryllium Sphere.
Okay.
I feel like Thomas was raised like on a farm or something where they didn't have electricity, and then sent off to aerospace engineering school, but without seeing any shows ever. Like,
yeah, Galaxy Quest is an absolute classic. I mean, it has Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman is a frickin' treasure. I'm so sad and he's shuffled the mortal coil or whatever. But you got to watch Galaxy Quest, and I'm not going to even spoil anything. But
extending my list of things I need to watch here.
Yeah, we'll make a list for you. Something Beryllium Sphere.
It's like they build the big starship in the space dock, and they're all right, hey, ready to launch, okay, and then they're like, take her out, and when they start to go forward, they start to scrape the side of the space dock, and it's like, and it's like a 5-minute scene where the guy driving the ship is just scraping the side of the space dock on the maiden voyage. It's that sort of deal.
So good.
Brian Banks with a super chat saying, y'all are all awesome. Glad to see Jack got to leave Boca for a second. I still think nose cone test modification is a prerequisite to a launch or landing abort system. That is a good point. Yeah, if there's some sort of like Crew Dragon-esque abort system, that's going to need some heavy modifications and likely its own propulsion system, which is why it seems unlikely that they'll go that route. And we kind of were talking about how today is the 40th anniversary of STS-1, first flight of the space shuttle. That is a vehicle that was very, very successful, even though it did not have an integrated abort system. And the one during launch failure that the space shuttle had was not a design flaw. That was an operational flaw. And so there is proof out there that you can make a reliable and crew rated vehicle that doesn't have an abort system. Just gonna wrap that up there. But thank you for the super chat there, Brian. We appreciate it. Roberto asking, when landing, can it perform the flip maneuver sooner in order to avoid sloshing during relight? I don't believe the time of the flip would affect the sloshing issue because it's still going to happen regardless of what altitude you're doing it. And if you do the flip sooner, or sooner so that you could do it more slowly, maybe, but I don't know how. I don't think that would have too significant of an effect on the sloshing issue. I think there are other ways they're going to have to go about solving that.
I mean, they light the engines to help with the flip, so
Right.
it doesn't really matter. It's not like, oh, the fuel's sloshing, so if you just do it higher. I mean, I've seen some people talk about they'll have more time to slow down or get to the right orientation or whatever, because they do swing that tail really close to the ground. But I don't think, because the engines are used to perform thrust vector or to provide thrust vectoring for the flip, I don't think that that's going to help specifically with the sloshing, you know?
Right, exactly. Jonathan Silva with the super chats asking about could they use carbon fiber for barrel sections of lunar Starship. I don't believe there would be any reason to do a different material on the different variants of Starship. I think they're all going to be stainless steel for commonality reasons, and this becomes a lot more complex to have carbon fiber tooling and things like that. As SpaceX investigated when they were first planning on making the interplanetary transport system and then BFR and now Starship, those designs did start with a carbon fiber assembly, and they moved away from it because they determined that stainless steel was actually better. So I don't think they're going to be going back to carbon fiber anytime soon. Geraldine with a super chat, thank you so much for your support. Also, Tech and Christian, thank you so much as well for your support. We appreciate it. Kyle Trick asking, did we get an update on the sizes of the fins? Are they smaller? I'm assuming they're talking about SN15 specifically. I don't think we have any reason to believe the fins are smaller on SN15, correct?
I think that was just like a chat optical illusion, like where chat says something and then it doesn't actually work out that way. I don't think that did we get any information on that, Michael? Like, did we ever?
I have not seen any information that the sizes are different.
Yeah.
To me, it looks the same.
Did we count the rings or anything like that?
I didn't. I don't know if somebody else did.
I don't know. Somebody in Discord can tell us. We don't have to wait for that.
Yeah. No, I'll keep going through questions. We'll get back to you if we have more info on that, but I believe the answer is no. Pylon Mountain with a super chat. Thank you so much for your support. Appreciate it. Riff Raiders show a regular on our streams, asking to change the subject briefly. Philip, one of the writers for a NASA spaceflight, is reporting an Artemis 1 date of no earlier than November 4th. Any more details you can share? We did publish a story giving an update on Artemis 1 status, and that includes a very optimistic kind of work to date for the launch of Artemis 1 being November 4th of this year. But that is an optimistic date that relies on kind of everything up until then going perfectly. The more realistic time frame, as also described in that article, is sort of the first quarter of 2022 or early 2022. We'll know a lot more once the core stage gets shipped off to Kennedy Space Center. So that's, I think, all the details that we have right now. And then a question here asking, do we think that the FAA would approve Starship flights with humans on board without an emergency escape system? Yes, because the space shuttle flew humans without an emergency escape system. So yes. Rich
I
F
mean,
with go
sorry,
ahead.
Thomas, but I mean, Virgin Galactic does not really have an escape system, and the FAA
That
approved
is also
that.
true. That is true,
They
although it
do
does have the
have.
ability to glide down after a shutdown. They
Yes, that's what I
still
was
have a
about to
way
say.
to abort from like an explosion. Yeah.
If
As
you
long as the
remember,
wings stay on.
oh god, if you remember their most recent test flight, the one that we streamed from New Mexico, which was awesome, they had an abort at engine ignition and were able to glide down to the runway. Although I'm pretty sure they can shut down their engine mid-flight or mid-burn,
Mm-hmm.
since it's a hybrid
Yep.
rocket engine, if I'm not mistaken. So
Sure.
it's not like a solid where once you light it, it's just lit. But yeah, they do have abort modes, but not really like an abort capsule or launches.
If the vehicle you're riding on has a problem, you may be in trouble. It's not like you can just get. It's not like you can just like escape from the actual vehicle itself. Uh, the actual spacecraft itself has to work to some degree.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just to finish the super chat from Rich really quick, who says Babylon 5 had the best, most realistic ships and epic storyline. So there's another entrance into our sci-fi conversation from earlier.
No one has mentioned Starship Troopers yet, which also is amazing. But as a movie, I don't know if we want to keep it just to TV shows. But anyways, I digress.
Anyways.
Thank you for coming to my television show webinar.
Ezra with a question asking, is SN15 still using helium? We're talking about tank pressurization. Do we have any updates on how they're pressurizing their tanks for flight?
I don't think so. Elon said it was a mistake to use helium after the SN10 anomaly. So that kind of implied they were going to go back to the autogenous pressurization, but I'm not sure if that's actually happened yet, or what the workaround is going to work to now is, because autogenous pressurization issues were what caused the problems with SN8, and then the fix was to move the helium, and then helium caused the problem with SN10. So I'm not sure what the final design they're going to settle on is going to be.
Carol with a question asking, where are Starship flaps made? We do see them get trucked into Boca Chica, so they're not built on site, I don't think. Do we know if they're built in Hawthorne or McGregor, maybe?
Pretty
or
sure Hawthorne. I'm almost
Hawthorne?
positive Hawthorne.
Gotcha.
But I don't know that for, no one has told me, hey, these are built in Hawthorne. But
Right.
from what I know, Hawthorne.
There is our unconfirmed but probable answer, Hawthorne, California, which is SpaceX headquarters. Same place that the Raptors are built. We know they're built in Hawthorne. Takeshi with a question, how would a BN static fire look, several at a time or all together? I think they might be talking about like staggered engine starts, is I think the angle of the question. As opposed to multiple boosters at a time. I think they're talking about a single booster. I believe it would make a lot of sense to at least slightly stagger the engine starts, even if it's by a couple milliseconds. That's kind of general practice. They even do that. I don't know if they do it on Falcon 9. I know they did it on Falcon Heavy. I don't know if engine starts staggered on Falcon 9 at all. But it is on Falcon Heavy. It's staggered. Was staggered on Shuttle. It will be staggered on SLS. And that's just kind of a way to make sure the vibrations don't amplify one another and cause any damage right at engine ignition. Would not be surprised if they employ something similar for Super Heavy.
I mean, they already staggered the engine starts for Starship static
Oh,
fire,
that's
you
true.
can tell, so.
Yeah, so even if they're staggering them for only 3 Raptors on a Starship, then yeah, almost certainly they'll stagger them on Super Heavy as well. That's a very good point, Michael.
But I think the question might also be asking, like, will they even do a 28 engine static fire all at once? I'm not sure if the pad will like that or not, given there's no flame trench. That might be interesting.
Well, I mean, it has to survive it for the period of liftoff, which isn't that dissimilar to the period of a static fire, so I would imagine it will be able to handle it. At least I would hope so.
I'm just
that's a
not
good
sure how often it's going to be able to handle it. We'll see.
Right, sure.
Really
Carson
quickly,
asked,
Thomas, I was just going to point out, it looks like we've got some of that early evening fog starting to come in. The top of the crane is actually barely visible now.
oh yeah,
Yeah, so we've seen the last couple of streams when we get into the evening hours here, we see sort of this, I don't know if it's a temperature inversion thing or what it is, but we'll get some either really low hanging clouds or fog. I'm not a meteorologist or anything like that. And it looks like that crane is, you can actually see things blowing in front of the top of the crane, like the cloud or the fog sort of moving by. So continuing to watch the ice melt here, though.
Yes. Carson Reed asking, will SN20 have vacuum Raptors?
Oh, you're on this camera. I could not even tell which camera you were on. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm on this camera.
It looks so similar. I thought you were on the other camera, but there's what it looks like from zoomed out.
Yeah. One of them was framed a little bit more to one side, and the other one was framed sort of middle to show the GSE-1 tank back there. Was the only difference between them, but no big deal. Do you need this camera for something?
No, I was going to see if we could see what the fog looked like from here, but it looks like it's kind of blended in with the background, but...
Yeah.
There you go.
It really is. There you go. Can't quite see it from here yet, and from the beach we can still see Starship. It's just getting a little hazy. We got a little bit of something in the way, so...
But back to answer this question about SN20 having vacuum Raptors, I would be very surprised if it doesn't. Simply because that is supposed to be the first orbital starship, and so it would be a little weird for them to try to make orbit before having the vacuum Raptors ready, and try to make it with just sea level engines, seeing as that's not how they would do it operationally. Can't rule it out, I suppose, but I would be surprised if they did not have vacuum Raptors for that first orbital attempt. And a question here asking about what is in store for SN7.2, talking about that test tank, which they've now rolled back to the production site, I believe. I think the speculation or the consensus currently is that they're done with SN7.2. It accomplished its goals, and we'll expect to see maybe another test tank, SN7.3 or something at some point. But I think SN7.2 is done, seeing as they have not rolled it back out to test it more recently, and it's been a while. So I believe SN7.2 is done.
Some Ragfire in Twitch chat said, tonight's forecast is 3. Clearly, I'm not a meteorologist. I think it's a joke.
I love it.
I laughed. Sorry.
No, that's a solid joke.
Chris Burzon with a super chat. Thank you so much for your support. I appreciate it. Random asking, thank you so much. Do we know if the header tanks have internal baffles to control slosh, and if not, why not? Do the header tanks have internal baffles? I think yes.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I believe they do. And then a question here, do they cryo test beyond nominal pressures or temperatures to ensure it will be fine on hot day? I would imagine that there's a little bit of margin. They don't go to the exact flight pressures or temperatures. They might go slightly more extreme. That's generally speaking how you test these kind of things. Not by so much that you endanger breaking things, but they'll go to whatever the maximum margin they need to be confident that their flight levels are safe. So which will be a little bit beyond your flight levels. So probably your probably yes. Jeremy with the super chat question, why is it that NASA wants to launch Artemis 1 within 2021? Is it something about contracts? I don't think so. I believe that is just kind of a, obviously Artemis program has been subject to a lot of delays, and they're trying to mitigate that as much as possible, so it's admittedly arbitrary, but trying to keep to some sort of time frame, even if it is a little arbitrary, just to kind of keep the pressure on the teams to make sure that not an unhealthy amount of pressure where safety is a concern, but so that you're not sitting around and waiting for things to happen, that you're actively making progress all along the way is helpful. So I think that's just sort of a date that they're trying to meet to keep the cadence where they want it and try and speed things up a little bit and prevent unnecessary delays. Which is not dissimilar to how SpaceX operates, for the record. And Mike D asking why they didn't make a flame transfer the Starship booster, one that destroyed the payment and possibly the booster itself. I wish I knew the answer to that question, but I don't. I don't know why they didn't put a flame diverter on the orbital launch site. So and maybe they will in the future, but I'm afraid that I don't know the explanation for that. Geoff asking, will the header tanks be the only fuel on Starship on the way to Mars? Assuming that the main tanks don't burn all the way to depletion, there will be some residual fuel there. I don't know if they'll be useful for anything, but unlikely that the header tanks will be the only ones filled during a Mars mission, even if those header tanks are the fuel for landing and you don't plan to use the other amounts of fuel.
Yeah, I don't know that the header tanks alone would be enough to do the entire Mars landing.
Also that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, because you get there. Are they going for direct? Like they're just going straight down to the surface. They're not going to orbit first or anything. Have they even
Right.
said anything like that? Like, are they just plowing straight into Mars, America style, or?
I do not believe there would be. Yeah, I do not believe there would be an orbital insertion first. I think it would be blazing straight into the atmosphere at interplanetary transfer velocity. Yes.
Gotcha. So maybe you don't need as much. You know something? Look at that. Those thermal tiles. Do they have frost on them now, or am I crazy?
No, so that top corner was missing tiles, right? There weren't
Yeah,
tiles there.
correct. There's
So
no tiles there. That's
So
the
it must.
mounting points.
It's the
There's
mounting
points,
points.
but they did not put tiles there.
Ah. So you sort
Yeah,
of see the outline of it, but it must be that the mounting points are warming it up faster or something, because it looks
yeah.
like it's.
Or you're just
it's
seeing
melting
the
faster.
like pin. They're because there's like pins sticking out and stuff, so you might just be seeing that.
Yeah. Huh. Sorry, I
But
just
yeah,
noticed that and thought I'd
yeah, no,
make a note.
good observation. But I don't believe. Yeah, you can see where it's still black, and though you still see the heat shield tiles clearly. There's no frost there.
Yeah, very interesting.
Geraldine with a new membership. Thank you so much for joining on. Appreciate the support. Hope you enjoy all of your membership benefits. A question from Joe asking, has anyone tried to calculate max Q for an orbital starship? The shuttle was under 5 psi. I don't know if I've seen those kinds of numbers. I would imagine it is not dissimilar to something like shuttle or... Actually, if I had to speculate, I would say shuttle might be a little higher Q just because solid rocket powered vehicles or vehicles that include solid boosters tend to have a little bit higher max Q, but obviously the liquid engines that they're along with can throttle down to mitigate that, so that's not always the case. Quantum Spin asking, what was the farthest the shuttle traveled from Earth? I'm gonna start Googling that unless someone knows the answer.
I mean, I know that the Hubble servicing missions were some higher altitude orbits, but I don't know if that was the highest ones, you know?
Checking, let's see. Yeah, it does look like it would have been STS-82. Hold on, I'm confirming. Which was one of the Hubble servicing missions. Hubble orbits a little higher than the International Space Station or other low Earth orbits that the shuttle normally serviced, so...
Well, I'm glad you're answering this question. I put it in the queue because I was curious myself.
Yeah. So yeah, here we go. Full disclosure, I'm reading off of Wikipedia, but it says SSA-2 was NASA's second mission to service the Hubble, during which Discovery's crew repaired and upgraded the telescope's scientific instruments, and also achieved the highest altitude ever attained by an SDS orbiter, 620 kilometers. So that's altitude. I know the question said radius, so add the radius of the Earth, but 620 kilometers altitude is the record for a shuttle mission for a Hubble servicing mission, STS-82 Space Shuttle Discovery.
It's a pretty spicy altitude. Wow.
That's almost double, not really double, but not quite double the normal altitude, like when you're going to the ISS or whatever, right?
Yeah, ISS is what, 400 something ish?
Yeah, 380, 390, 400, like depending on when they've raised the orbit last.
Right.
So at least 50% higher than the normal altitude of the ISS, I guess. Huh. And look at that. The bottom tank has completely lost all its frost now.
Yeah, and you can see that's starting to go away from the top tank too. There's a little bit left, but...
And the road closure ends at 8 p.m., so most likely they are done for today.
Here is a question. I wish we had some more shuttle experts on the stream because I know they would have the answers to this. If SLS was to pad abort, what's the turnaround time? So I do not know off the top of my head what the standard turnaround time for an RS-25 pad abort is. I think it's on the order of less than a week, but like a couple days. But I could be mistaken.
Usually the determining factor in that is you have to replace the rofies that burn off the hydrogen at the pad.
That's true.
That's at least for Delta IV Heavy. That is the critical
Yeah.
path when that happens.
Yeah, and we're not going to talk or think about Delta IV Heavy aborts for the upcoming
No.
NROL 82.
Yeah, no, we're not allowed.
It's gonna be first attempt.
First attempt, right off the pad. I don't know
No
if
problem.
they've. I don't think they've published a window for that
They
because it's a
did today.
classified.
They just
oh, they
did.
did.
Yeah.
Whoa!
It's like
what's the
first
is it-
afternoon, right?
Yeah, it's
Oh no way! It's
I
a
think
day launch.
it's a day launch.
Oh
window
joy!
is from 12:39 local time until 3 something. I forget the exact time, but
Oh my god, that makes me so happy. Delta Heavy day launch, Vandenberg baby, Slick 6. All right, the hype train is sailing.
3:57 is the end of the window.
Not too shabby.
No. Nice window in case they have issues, they can work them out and not screw up.
Or abort. Let's see here. We got a chat here from Flynn Matthews saying, "Thank you for everything that you have done and as a spaceflight. I'm only 12 years old and found interest in spaceflight at age 10. Thank you very much for what you have done." Flynn, thank you for the kind words and for tuning in. We're glad that our coverage has at least helped you get some interest in spaceflight, and we hope that the cool stuff that we like to share with everybody here can keep reminding you why spaceflight's cool and why it should be interested, not just to you but to everyone else who's watching too. That's why we're here, to kind of spread all the cool things that is happening in spaceflight and why people should care about this stuff. So, Flynn, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it.
Yeah, I mean, it would be so cool to be 12 right now and have all of this awesome stuff in front of you. I mean, I remember being 12 and being frustrated and a lot. Like, man, I wish I could, do X or Y, or I don't feel like a kid. I feel like a normal adult human, like, any other human. Just let me treat me like an adult. And, but with that frustration for those of you who are young right and out there and listening, I mean, hopefully is mitigated by, if you have it, is mitigated by just knowing the future is going to have a lot of stuff, thanks in no small part to Starship and systems like it. And we're at the dawn of a new era in spaceflight, and you are in prime position to experience so much. So, congrats.
Also, Dr. Pork with a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Saying, "Hey, this is Kyle from California. What's up, Kyle? Love you guys' streams. Keep up the great work, and can't wait to see a successful Starship landing." Us too, and appreciate the support there, Kyle. Thanks for tuning in and sending the love our way. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. A lot of people.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Rest in peace,
Did we
Jack.
lose Jack? We lost Jack.
DXE has crashed.
We'll get Jack back in a second, hopefully. Quick,
Jack, if you can hear us, we can't hear you, so you may need to reconnect.
Yeah, quick status update. That ice continues to go down. What we're seeing right now, everyone, if you're just joining us, is what we believe the final depressurization after cryogenic testing. We'll know for sure if and when the pad reopens, but it does appear that they have gone through a cryogenic test cycle and are ready to conclude testing for the day here before too long. But we will see. In the meantime, we are continuing to ask questions. I guess we could also ask questions. We're mostly answering questions, but that would be a fun thing. What if we do an entire stream where instead of us answering questions from chat, we ask questions and chat answers?
We ask questions. Nice. Hashtag engagement.
Hashtag engagement. Ooh, well, okay. We won't do any of the things. It's late enough in the stream, but there are engagement tricks that we have, but we'll save those for another time. Blazing with another super chat and another hashtag #WhenShave. Appreciate the support there. Hopefully, when Jack gets back, he will.
Yeah, hey, sorry
Oh,
about
there he
that.
goes.
There you go.
My
He's
internet
back.
went cruddy for a second there. I apologize if I went all robotic or cut out in the middle of a thought or something. I have no idea where it happened.
You were just like the secret to life, universe, and everything is.
And then it just stopped.
Oh yeah, classic me. Classic me.
And then Jack Laurel, I believe, is with the super chat saying, with the Starlink antenna spotted on Sm15, future in-flight entertainment confirmed, better than Netflix via the Deep Space Network. Yeah, I don't know, that could be a thing. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see. I don't know exactly how they would use Starlink on a Starship vehicle. It might even just be for these low altitude tests or relatively low altitude tests to do weird Starlink testing, and not a sign of what they'll actually put Starlink on starships in the future. But maybe they will. I'm not sure. All I'm saying is that they will need in-flight entertainment if we're going. Basically, if I'm booking a 6-month trip to Mars, I'm gonna want in-flight entertainment. So I agree with you. Appreciate the support there, Jack.
I think it's called a thumb drive in that case.
Yeah, that's true. That's a lot easier, is just to put everything pre-installed and not have to stream anything. But
Just
then how am I
disco
supposed to watch
music.
NSF streams when I'm on Starship?
We'll pre-record them for you.
Is that how that works? Can I watch my own launch stream live?
Yeah, well, in advance of when it actually happens.
Let's see here. Jack asking, have any vacuum raptors been spotted in Boca Chica? I do not believe so. In fact, only recently we saw pictures from Gary Blair showing the second ever vacuum raptor in McGregor. So since they've literally only gotten 2 to McGregor, I highly doubt any have made their way to Boca Chica just yet. And then a question about estimating when the launch table might be installed. So we're talking about over at the Orbital launch site. I will open this up to someone else because I don't know the answer. Like at all.
Oh, we haven't even seen it rolled out yet, right?
Yeah,
Right.
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
super hard. I mean, you could just say a date and it would be plausible.
Oh, hey.
This just in, Mary reporting. The road is open.
Let's see
Yeah,
here.
we need to start doing sound drops, man. I'm telling you. We could do the horse whinny, whip crack. We could do all sorts of stuff.
Trying to see if we've got one with a little bit wider angle there. But report from Mary that the road is opened, and seeing if we don't see vehicles moving on one of the cameras
Mars
here.
has got it.
There you go. Thank
There
you,
you go.
Michael. And there are vehicles approaching the pad, folks. So that means that the road has been opened. And looking, there goes a disco party too. That usually indicates that they are done with testing. Now, is it the road open? Is it the pad open? I mean, clearly there are vehicles driving out there. Is it open to the public yet when the ice is still melting? Mary said that the road is open, and that is usually what we wait for the end of the stream. So
That likely means that they're not only ready to return to the pad, but they're also done testing for the day. So they didn't just open the pad, but they also just opened the road.
yeah, nobody at
and
the
Mary
checkpoint, she
confirming
said.
that. So
Yeah,
that would be a conclusion of testing. Again, we did see that weird sort of vapor thing that we hadn't seen before, but no really strong evidence one way or another whether that was bad or not.
Yeah,
it did look like a pretty complete cryo test. So
yeah, it didn't. It's not like they immediately long duration vented after that happened. You know.
yeah, so
like they continued to do that maintenance venting for a while, so it looked like that may have just been a relief or testing the disconnects or something like that.
right. So hopefully that means that today's test was successful. Again, one sign of that will possibly be if they cancel tomorrow's road closures. That would be a sign that they don't need those backup windows, and they're going to take the next attempt or the next days to start installing engines and things like that. But we'll keep an eye out. But it appears that a successful day of testing has been completed in Boca Chica as SN15 begins its campaign and gets closer to an eventual flight test.
Yeah, the next thing, I think the next major tell would either be like an Elon tweet saying the proof was successful, or them starting to dismantle the supports and the thrust ram, because they can just pull that thrust ram out from underneath it, and start putting Raptors on this thing and progress towards a static fire, which would be next, and of course after that a flight. So hopefully today's test, like you said, was good, and they start removing that thrust ram, and of course Mary will have eyes on it like she always does, and so if that happens, we'll know.
And I guarantee you, if they get into the next testing, that static fire test, we will be here ready to cover it for y'all. That's sort of what we do, live coverage, commentary, explanations for everybody to be able to experience these events as they happen. And then in the meantime, as work continues all across Boca Chica, you'll get the daily videos, the recorded daily videos here on the NASA Spaceflight channel. If you haven't yet, make sure you subscribe, follow, whatever the kids are calling it these days, so that you can see what's happening at Boca Chica on a daily basis, every single day. Mary, Boca Chica gal, is out there capturing what's going on, the booster moving around, tanks getting flipped, whatever's happening, new stuff being installed out at the orbital launch site. She's there every day, and we have a daily video showing what's going on. So live streams will be right here. Daily videos, the pre-recorded videos will be right here as well. And if you want to keep up with other coverage, make sure you follow on Twitter too. At NASA Spaceflight is the primary account. If there's something happening over on Fleet Cam, if there's a new article that comes out across the board, if there's something happening in spaceflight, we're probably covering it. And you can get all that from that NASA Spaceflight Twitter account at NASA Spaceflight. Somebody put a link into chat if you could for that. So are we wrapping it up? We ready to go around the horn here, folks, and say our goodbyes?
Well, I think
think
so,
so.
Josh.
All righty. Well, folks, on the stream today, of course, we'll start out here. Out there at Boca Chica, we had Boca Chica gal Mary rolling out her live stream rig. There we go, her live stream rig, so that we could see what was going on for her perspective over there. Make sure you give her a follow on Twitter as well at Boca Chica gal. She is the original Starship documenter out there, who's been basically as long as they've been putting pieces of stainless steel in tents. Mary's been out there taking photos and videos.
Since before it was even just piles of dirt, even.
Yeah. Oh, she lived there before SpaceX even came out that way, didn't she?
Yeah, remember when it was just soil surcharging for like 2 or 3 years? Like we should have a Texas Dirt Watcher shirt or something for like the OG people. Only Mary can wear it.
But that's her information in the upper right-hand corner there. As always, thank you so much to Mary for all the daily content, all the videos that come through, and the live streams. She is out there, and like I say, they can't slap a label on a piece of stainless steel without Mary getting footage of it to share with everybody. So massive thanks to her for rolling out today. And then back here doing remote commentary, we had Thomas Berghardt for a good amount of time there. Thomas, thank you so much for hanging out with us and literally holding down the live Q&A there for quite a while. We appreciate you.
Absolutely, always a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Absolutely. So, y'all, you can follow Thomas over on Twitter at TGMetsFan98. One of the mods can get that link into chat, too, if you can. Also, back in the studio, Jack Beyer. Jack, how you doing?
No complaints. Hopefully a successful test today. Thanks, everybody, for all the support. Especially Corporal Daywalker. Thanks again for that insane super chat.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll see what's up next for SN15, progressing towards its flight test.
You heading out there like they're going to do a static fire? You're going to hop in the Land Rover and just get out of Dodge, or what?
Oh, man. So there's multiple things this month that I really want to shoot. I think Blue Origin, or there's a TFR for Van Horn.
Origin
Yep.
is launching on Wednesday. Yep.
Yep, and then there's NRO 82 from Vandenberg, the Delta Heavy we were talking about earlier. That's on the 26th. So my schedule is getting packed, and of course I don't want to miss SN15. And there's also something else which can't talk about yet, but there's things coming. There's lots of cool things. So we'll see. I mean, maybe on this one the Land Rover will have to stay home, and I'll take a flight out there because I've started to get my vaccination shots, and that would be a nice quick way to pop out, shoot SN15, and not miss any of these other events that we want to cover coming up here in April. But busy month in spaceflight. We'll just have to wait and see how that puzzle comes together. It's like a Rubik's Cube of cool stuff, and you don't want to mess up any of the sides. I don't know. You get it.
What a problem to have. Too many things to cover, and you got to start choosing. Jeez.
Yeah, seriously, what a problem. Good stuff.
A little bit earlier, not on the stream anymore, but we also had Ian Atkinson. He was on. He had to take off, but he was doing a bunch of the Q&A there earlier in the stream. So thanks to Ian for stopping through. And then we also had Michael Baylor, still here. We still have Michael Baylor. Michael, thanks for making sure all the lights continue to blink in the proper order in the background and moving the cameras to look at fog when I was on that camera.
They look so similar. I'm sorry, but yeah, good to see what I assume was a successful cryogenic proof test today. Hopefully that means the flight of SN15, as much as Jack wants it to be delayed, I hope the flight of SN15 is as soon as possible, because I cannot wait to see a Starship fly again.
Nice. You can follow Michael on Twitter there at Next Spaceflight. And I missed Jack as well. Jack was the Jack Buyer there. If mods could put both of those links into chat, we'd appreciate it. And lastly, here from the NASA Spaceflight live stream control, my name is John Galloway, talking and running robots and hanging out here in the background. Now it's time to start pulling some of this footage so that we can put together the cryo-proof test summary video, which you should look for either late tonight or tomorrow morning, condensing the entire event down to like a 12-minute video for people who don't have time to sit through a 3-hour and 19-minute live stream. We will be working on that as well here on the same channel, but make sure you follow us here at NASA Spaceflight on Twitter. And that is the best way to make sure you know what's going on, because when videos are released, you'll get a tweet or you'll get a notification if that's working for you, etc., etc. But that is going to wrap up our live stream coverage of the proof testing here today. Thanks to everybody for all the support. However you're a part of the community, whether you're coming and you're just asking great questions, you're talking in chat, of course, people that are doing memberships and super chats, and the people that are the recurring members every month, people that buy stuff from the merch store. We've got all sorts of different WinHop merchandise at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Or just people who show up for a little bit and they like a tweet or something. However you engage, however you hang out with us, and however you're a member of the Spaceflight community, we appreciate y'all showing up every time we go live. It's what makes it possible for us to do these streams. But I don't think that I missed anything there. Did I, folks? Are we good to go, NASA Spaceflight team?
I think I'm good to go.
All right. Well, that is going to end our stream today, folks. Again, thank you so much for watching. And by Grabthar's hammer, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, nerds.
Chamber pressure looks good. Following up. Roger, roger, planet. Water tower, fly! Flight downside, FP off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.